Hello, everyone. Welcome to Knights of Last Call. My name is Derik Melinda, joined by my esteemed colleagues, Bob Bumbarger and Aaron Smith.
I like the story or the arc development of you now pronouncing my last name correctly.
Right, that's my character arc.
Yeah, that's your character arc.
Right. I used to have a real problem with that.
Yeah.
Like,
We switched to Bob for a while.
yeah, it was just like, I'm just going to call you Bob, because I can't say Bumbarger.
Iomedede?
Iomedede.
Oh, yeah.
I still have that clip somewhere. It's freaking hilarious.
That's a tough one. Hello,
The power of
everybody.
editing.
Who we got? We got Ben in the chat. Hey, Ben.
Ben's not gaming tonight.
Which is crazy.
It's actually just crazy. You know, he says, like, he goes, rare Tuesday. I'm like, it's a rare day that he's not gaming.
That's very accurate. Let's see. Dr. Waits is here, feeling less cantankerous than the RF stream yesterday. Yeah, did you guys get a look at that?
Which one?
Did you watch the RFC stream yesterday?
I didn't even realize you were on until I ran and was on YouTube, and I saw that you were on it.
Oh, okay.
I did not know you were on it.
I didn't know if you failed to announce it or
yesterday
what.
was a busy day at
It was
work.
busy, and it was last minute thing from Steven Glicker.
What was the topic?
Well, he just gotten back from PAX and PAX Unplugged, and he got to play. It's Steven, so right. He got in there and he was talking to the people making the new VTT for D&D.
Oh, that's pretty sweet.
And he was like, it's pretty fucking sweet.
Wow.
I mean, the images look great.
Yeah,
but
that's
he's a big
that was a turn for
BG3
that
fan.
guy.
Right. So I mean, if you haven't seen that, go if you're interested in that, go watch. We'll go to Roll for Combat stream. I was on there yesterday, and they're actually going to be back on tomorrow to talk more about PAX in general, and like all the cool stuff that they saw and learned. And there's a bunch of D&D people there, so it's like pretty cool. But but when originally it was presented a couple months ago, and they said they were doing this VTT. Of course, everybody. I shit on WotC, whatever like that. They're coming for Foundry, and then we saw it, and I said,
"Had your kids, had your wife."
No, they're not. I said, "What this is tabletop simulator, not Roll20, not Foundry. It's tabletop simulator. It's Tailspire, maybe.
Yeah,
right. It's more of like we want to create a virtual tabletop.
Oh yeah,
like minis and terrain.
Also, you didn't hear about it once BG3 came out. Once BG3 came out, everyone's like, that BG3 is pretty fun. Oh, they're basically making a video game that we can play D&D in also.
Well, yeah, but I think that misses the point, though, right? Which is, this is what's crazy about it. To me, this is just me. Taking a game and putting it into like Foundry, like 5th edition or Pathfinder 2nd edition, and then automating the hell out of everything. And making a bunch of macros and hotbars. That to me is more video gamey than creating a really cool 3D environment where basically it's like Dwarven Forge, but in
so you're saying it's more freeform.
I think so.
Like it's almost like what do you call it? Like world? What do you call it in video games? Where open world. So it's more open world.
Well,
yes and no.
Tailspire, you're not familiar with Tailspire, right? So Tailspire is a VTT that I actually like. It's got some.
It's not really a VTT though.
Well, that's probably one of the reasons I like it. Right, it's kind of getting there. Right, it's a virtual tabletop in the literal sense of a virtual tabletop. Right, it's got some things that I don't like. One of them being their business model, which they're actually changing now. So they're getting on the bandwagon for everyone else, where it's basically only the DM has to pay money and everyone else can join for free,
which makes sense.
As God intended.
It was on the 11th commandment.
That was the 11th one.
That's the 11th one, right? But what I like about it is it's simply just it's terrain and it's minis and it's dice and like that's it. It's not trying to do shit for you.
And that is what was shown, and I presumably is getting somewhat close to final product of this virtual tabletop VTT. But here's the other thing that was shocking, because everybody assumed walled garden.
What's that?
Walled garden. So like it's beautiful in here, but you can't leave.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And while this isn't like it's obviously still being in development, and there's nothing to be said, yet. They were talking to the developers, and they said, no, we'd love to have other people use this. There's to your point.
Oh, they mean walled garden. It's D&D
and terrain and dice. You could use that to play any RPG that exists.
So WotC owns this, right?
Yeah.
But they've partnered with a developer to build it.
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay, so WotC holds the rights, though. So WotC can decide if they're going to
right now. It's like super
not.
integrated with D&D Beyond and stuff like that. Like you make a character in D&D Beyond, and then you like drag your character. It's an app. It's not a web app. Right. It's like an install, and then you just drag your character in. And then you have it, but it's not like Foundry. It's not going to at least from what everyone's saying. I was giving a great example of where in Foundry, I think there's a lot. I mean, like you look at Foundry Pathfinder 2, it's like, hey, the game knows that I'm on the other side of this creature, but that my ally isn't next to him. It's 5 feet away. But my ally has a spear, which has the reach trait. So it knows that it's threatening that, which means it knows that I'm flanking that, which means when I attack this thing, it'll be flat-footed or off guard. Like Foundry, PF2 does that.
Right.
Question.
This does not.
Right.
Yeah,
I like that because you have to actually know how to play the game. Play the game.
Right, exactly.
All right, question.
Yeah.
This is the real test.
Okay.
All right, Smith moves away. I move away. Would you play D&D with it?
What do you mean, like with that system?
Would you play D&D with that system with your friends? I know you like
absolutely.
playing. That's what I'm saying. Like,
I mean, again,
because I know Foundry, you get a little frustrated with sometimes.
I do get frustrated with Foundry, but to be fair, I would get frustrated with it the same way that I get frustrated when we used to play with Dwarven Forge in real life, right? Which is, the party goes left instead of right, and I'm like, shit, I gotta build this freaking room up, and like it can take a little bit of time. I said the problem is getting into the mindset. I was actually giving this example on the stream. Apologies if you watched it, but like I was talking about in Abomination Vaults, which we're playing in person. And which we'll talk about here. We'll talk about it. Yeah, we'll talk about here. But I was saying at one point we pulled out these minis, which ended up being Sugathis, and I said
those things ran amok.
Those things, we use those things for like damn near everything in the game.
They're right there.
Like
good size.
Yeah, we're like, oh, it's a large flesh warp. It's a large weird creature from the Abomination Vaults. Boom, it's a Sugathi. And so like to me, yes, it's cool to have the perfect mini.
I believed it. But I didn't need it to be perfect.
No, but also, back when we were, there was a time when we used to play and like
we used chess pieces.
We used to use chess pieces.
I used a gummy bear once.
Ben just uses tokens with numbers and letters on them. It doesn't matter. And so like to a certain extent, like I'm like, if that was my mindset when I'm using this 3D virtual table, right, rather than like in Foundry,
perfect.
Yeah, like it's like I got to make it perfect. And what about and like. There didn't appear to be any lighting, line of sight vision, and so I think it's just one of those things too. Like I don't know about you, Bob. I don't know about you, Smith. But like when I first started playing with Roll20, I was just like, oh my god, token vision is so amazing.
Do you not remember the Basilisk room?
Right, exactly.
Token vision.
That was
amazing.
A Roll20 tech demo,
right? But if you think about the last couple of VTGs games that I played, like when we played Abomination, when we started, which was in Foundry, I turned that shit off and I had party vision.
No, I'm okay with party vision also, but what I don't like is like if I've built an entire terrain system and then I just cover it up with pieces of paper. It's the same thing.
Just to a certain extent.
Party vision.
But what I'm saying is like that's different than token vision. It's just like
I get that. I'm okay with party
vision. You're
not
in the room. You can't see anything happening. Okay.
What I don't like is like you have to like pretend like you don't see the whole.
Well, and that's the other thing I said like
the whole dungeon
about this system is like I would love to have it set up where a place where it's like no, I'm not building the dungeon.
Right. It's just the scene.
I'll just build a room.
Yeah.
And when the players are going through the rest of the dungeon and they enter a room where I know there's not going to be any combat or anything like that. Like I cannot stand it. You're the king of this, Bob. I cannot stand it when people are on Foundry and they play it. Like they play it like they're moving their piece in a Clue board game.
Yeah.
Right. Like where they're like, okay, well, I'm gonna move over here.
Look,
and
PF2 breaks me a little bit. I gotta I can't break out of it.
Yeah. So it's just one of those things where I think it'll be really interesting. Anyway, so check that out if you haven't done that, and then Roll for Combat will be back tomorrow. Talk more about what they learned in PAX.
What's the 3D builder we use for maps for rooms on Steam? Alchemist, Dungeon Alchemist.
What was the question again?
Dungeon Alchemist is what I was talking about.
That's the AI map generator.
I feel like you could partner with them, and then it's like go left, hold on, click, generate 3x3 dungeon room with.
Well,
things.
Here, you want to make some money. Okay, Bob, you ready? Because I know, Bob, you're a hustler. You're trying to make your mark, right? You want to be rich and famous.
I don't want to be famous.
All right, you want to be rich. But the reason I bring this up for you is because you already have a passing interest in this. Okay.
Yeah.
Which is this. Today, okay, you have people like Jepeku who make flat, beautifully artistically rendered battle maps.
Yep.
And their Patreon is set up so that whenever they create a new map pack, which is usually one map, and they've got like 8 different variants of it, nighttime, snow time, but it's the same map. And then everybody who signed up pays. And so they make like $60,000 or $70,000 every time they post a map. I don't know what this future state is going to look like, but if you can become the person who does that, but for virtual 3D assets for this D&D virtual tabletop.
If
They're gonna
D&D
make bank.
Beyond was smart about it, they would have a D&D marketplace where they
will.
take a
They will.
10% of
And
that
I don't
cut.
know. I don't know what all your STL patrons are gonna, Patreons are gonna do. But if they were smart, those STL Patreons would make an STL. Sure, print it.
Yeah.
That's for the old way. Now we also make the 3D Blender Unreal model,
Well, and then
it's all available.
Once it's they make it in 3D anyway, and a lot of them color it too to give you color guides. So once you've colored it, you've made the 3D rendered
Right,
model.
assuming that you can take that, it would be instead of, and I'm not even kidding you. If you came up with a model where you could say every month I release 5 to 10, or 3 to 7 cool, like, oh, this month it's Orcs Attack, and it's like, here's 7 cool orc minis for your D&D thing. It's $5 a month. You'd have 10,000. You'd have 10,000 patrons.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
I mean, I could do the maps maybe. I don't know about modeling.
I pay a guy to do maps on Patreon.
Yeah.
Because he has like the 3D and the full baked assets. You remember the TV?
No, I watched
Yeah.
it. Show me like it also
Oh,
like,
yeah, I
lets
remember
you
that
come
guy.
through with the lighting too. But that's
Anyways.
that could be something if you don't see me for a while, it's because I'm diving in.
I mean,
figure that
I'm
out.
just
Or
saying like
dying
that.
from resin poison.
Yeah,
Is that like why can't I see my kids? I'm building maps all night.
So we got a couple people here. Just want to give a quick shout out. We got Doug in the chat. We got Dirty Phil in the chat. We've got Roll for Combat, of course, in the chat. Jackal's here. Frosty is bouncing off of a satellite trying to get the stream. Well, welcome, Frosty. Just hustling. Ayla loves. I think I love maps and dynamic effects, lighting effects too much just not to use them.
if they're there,
No, I don't like them now. I actually turn them off.
you turn everything off.
Yeah.
I have everything.
turned off-
I have so much stuff on. You can't handle it.
You ready for like this like broke people? I ran a Northern Reaches Pathfinder 2 game, and I turned off Dice So Nice.
Yeah, you turn off Dice So Nice. I mean,
Pretty sure it's grounds for us to be deplatformed.
that's like one of that has to be out of my games. I get so upset.
The
But,
one I can't stand is that stupid mod that you use with the where's everyone's cursor.
That's
at?
not a mod. That's the
just-
default. You
the
got to turn it
default-
off.
That's the default founder.
But
Well,
I have such
that's-
ADD. I actually don't mind it. I can see right
That's
through
a
it.
war crime.
Oh yeah, that's horrible. That's absolutely horrible. All right. But anyways, that was just kind of a quick little introduction. So
but
tonight,
that's interesting because that was yesterday's stream with you and RFC. So
Yeah.
it's something I should probably put on.
and again, I just think it was really interesting. Again, we were kind of talking about this a little bit earlier, but next year I think is going to see a lot of stuff. Just a lot of stuff.
There's a lot of stuff I'm interested in.
Sometimes
playing.
it's kind of like reminds me of when the 3E bubble kind of popped and all this stuff came out.
Exactly.
There was a ton of trash, but so much good stuff.
In a way, when the 3E bubble popped, when the 4E bubble popped,
Same. Yeah.
and now now the 5E quote unquote bubble is popping. Now I would argue it popped earlier this year.
Yeah.
And then there's that delay
Yep.
because everybody's got to run around
Go
like
and
a
make
chicken
their
with-
stuff, yeah.
right? And then get their stuff out quickly as quickly as they can without making it complete trash. And so you're going to just have an ungodly number of new games dropping next year from pretty big people.
I'm really interested in the MC
MCDM.
Yeah, just because that Flea Mortals book, like, is that from that too?
Well,
Or is
no,
that
it's a 5th edition
that's just
monster
5th edition
book,
thing. But he looks like he knows what he's doing a little bit. Well, he's not
to be clear,
stupid.
no. Matt even said like
He's not stupid.
they hired like a real designer for
Yeah,
this one,
right.
And so
Which is good.
He has, not saying that Matt creating those earlier books would be like us creating
Right.
those
Yeah,
books,
yeah.
where it's
You
like,
gotta start somewhere.
you got some cool ideas, so,
Yeah.
but you were clearly not have not
Right.
done this before, and it shows, to a certain
When I
extent.
saw the Flea Mortals book, I'm like, faith renewed. Like, I'm ready.
Yeah, it was
Like,
great. It's
it was a
very,
good book.
it's a very great.
They're
book.
going to be excited about that book because we're excited to see, well, this is how this book came out. It's kind of like a late 3rd edition book. It's like, okay, so this is a good kind of preview indication of where his system is going to go. And if that's the case, then we're excited because that was a great book.
Yeah, and obviously I want to try Daggerheart. I mean, that's just because. I mean, it's gonna be popular enough to try.
Yeah, I mean, also, every person I've ever met, and again, Steven, very, he's flexing on the stream. There's a picture of him hanging out with Matt Colville not Matt Colville, sorry, Matt Mercer at PAX. But he said he was like, I didn't want to.
I felt like I had to.
No, he's like, he's like, I have a man crush. Like he really is that, we were joking because like
get the Matt Mercer's hair channel back.
The word of the, the word of the year was Riz, for 2023 was Riz.
What's Riz?
It's what the kids say. Oh, they got Riz.
I have actually heard
charisma.
That. Yeah.
And so he's like, I was like, yeah, Matt's got that Riz. And he was like, he does. he just comes off as so amazingly genuine and nerdy and like. And
I believe him.
No, so
Matt Mercer feels like the real deal.
I understand the halo effect is a real thing,
Yeah.
right? Oh, this person looks good. They smell good. They must be good, right? But the fact of the matter is, I truly believe that they are trying to create, the best game that they know how to make, and I think that their vision is going to see through that.
Mercer and like. I haven't watched majority of Critical Role, but I've seen a lot of their like early stuff, like back when they were in the kitchen, a lot of his interviews, stuff that wasn't even related to gaming. I have not once seen something that gave me an indication or implication that like Matt Mercer wasn't a good dude.
Yeah,
right.
Like he wasn't being genuine or something like that.
Correct. Right.
Yeah.
Like I legitimately think that he went into this business because he
who was the D&D guy that was like
games.
That got like canceled earlier this year or last year? Was it? Him and his like wife were
Satine Phoenix and her husband.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't get those vibes from Matt Mercer.
On the other hand, those people had a lot of tells, up to including the last one.
Yeah, that's kind of my point. It's like he feels like. I mean, we'll wait because you never know what skeletons are buried in someone's closet. But,
right.
Anyways,
so
we did finish a campaign.
We did. So real quick, if you're watching again tonight, we're going to touch on a couple different things. Again, we do have a couple stream goals here. One of which is just super chat because you like us and you love us and you want to support us. A tip goal tonight is because if you can take a look here, it's kind of dark in this corner. One of our lights burned out.
Oh,
so,
did it? Oh, and you love buying lights.
I know. So that light is burned out.
We're going back to basics.
And I see
and
it.
so if anybody wants to throw us, $50 in tips, we can go
just
replace that light.
Just that little torch light's all we got now.
Yeah, the torch is the only thing illuminating those, coming. So, but before we get into this, I just want to be very, very, very clear to anybody watching. Okay, spoilers for Abomination Vaults. Okay, so if you're planning on playing Abomination Vaults, or if you are playing Abomination Vaults and you don't want to be that kind of dick player, definitely skip ahead. I won't be able to do it right away, but I'll try to put chapters onto this video. So if you're watching on the VOD,
you
like
can
tomorrow,
just skip to the next one.
You can just skip to the next part. So but again, we wanted to talk on a couple different topics tonight, and one of them, which was voted on by our patrons, was to just talk about Abomination Vaults. And
how do you become a patron?
you become a patron by joining our Patreon. That is located in the link below, patreon.com/nightsoflastcall, and you can support the channel, and you get to hang out with us, and you get to talk with us, you get the game with us, you get the game with our community, which is even better, than Bob.
Yeah.
And
I'm running a game probably next year, so we gotta.
That's true. We do need to get you in gaming. So, but anyways, Abomination Vaults. So the history of us for Abomination Vaults is we started playing Abomination Vaults virtually.
Yes.
With 5 people.
Yes.
And
this is like just when COVID was happening
in 2020.
Is like just when COVID, just before COVID.
It was 2021.
Okay.
Just after COVID.
Yeah. Well, COVID was like still the thing, but not. But so we started playing Abomination Vaults in Foundry. This was before the official Abomination Vaults module had released. Correct. So we were using the PDF to Foundry. When that was still a thing. Shout out PDF to Foundry. And we made 5 characters. We had 5 different players, and we played through book 1 of the adventure, which again, like a lot of Paizo APs, this is some of the new ones. It's 3 adventures that cover 1 to 10 instead of 6 adventures that cover 1 to 20, and each of the 3 chapters is written by a different author. So
spoiler.
book 1 was written, I think, by James Jacobs. Book 2 was written by Vanessa Hoskins, and book 3, I think, was written by Stephen Randy McFarlane. So. And besides spoilers,
that
shows, right?
Well, besides spoilers, we're also going to be very opinionated here. This will be just our opinions. This isn't again. Everyone's table is going to be different. We played it. Yep. Our players can sometimes dictate the way Derik runs things too. So take everything we say with a little grain of salt. But you might get a little tidbit here on either how to run yours, maybe a little bit better, or what to look up for. Maybe there's some pitfalls and stuff like that.
Right. So again, I mean, the premise and what attracted me to this was it was a mega dungeon, and I've seen this kind of bandied about before. Okay, it doesn't meet my criteria of what a mega dungeon is, but
it's close as
it's mega for Paizo.
It's about as mega as you can be without getting some massive Necromancer Games tome that is literally thicker than a phone book. Right.
Which is what we call a mega dungeon.
Which is what we would call it.
And those would be APs, right?
I'm trying to remember. I feel like this is on par with Emerald Spire, which is their other mega dungeon.
I feel like if you played Emerald Spire, this is very similar.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. It did, in my opinion, hold to certain mega dungeon traits, which is 10 levels. It was 10 levels, right? Each level was a different theme and kind of had its own unique feel.
Yeah.
There were a lot of things that this module did right. A lot of things that this did module. For example,
that's the story I was bought in on.
One of my criteria for being a good dungeon is non-linearity.
Yeah.
And it got a little linear at the end, but a lot of mega dungeons do.
They do. They have to.
They have to, because the way I look at it is it maybe not like a pyramid or like an inverted pyramid, but it almost should look like a diamond. Like if the game starts, you have a number of options, or the players know the one entrance to the dungeon. And then by the time you get a couple levels, very quickly, you've gotten we know about 4 levels and that sub level, and we know about 5 different ways to get in the dungeon. And then you get to this massive point where you have so many options. And then at some point in the dungeon, they begin shrinking back down, refocusing back down, usually down to like the big, evil, bad demon lord thing that lives in the bottom of the dungeon. The climax of the story. So when we first played, and this was, I thought, awesome. When we first played on level 1, which is the ruins, so it's actually above ground.
Yes.
There's a moat house and a drawbridge, and then you cross into it, and there's this whole series of encounters. And then my group completely did not do that. They went around the moat house. They actually went
go through the main door.
They went through the secondary building first. They went down to level 2, technically.
Yeah.
Then they came back up. They broke in through the side of the dungeon. They basically beat the dungeon or the first level from back to front, so that by the time they were actually had leveled up to level 2,
then we did the top.
Then you were fighting the level 1 creatures that were in the front, and it was
because we broke in the back glass of the one room to get in, which was actually really fun. We could explore the dungeon.
It felt like legitimate exploration, which I thought was great.
And then there was we went back to town for a little bit, and the graveyard, the wash light brings the graveyards back together. I'm like, things are happening not just in the campaign, but within this city, which is kind of cool.
Right.
It had a degree of time pressure, which is what you need for these adventures to not be trivial.
Right. I mean, to be fair, this is a classic problem. I mean, a lot of I'll own up to it. This is a problem in a lot of classic mega dungeons. If you have a mega dungeon that is down the street or whatever, or even if it isn't, and there's what's there? Well, it's an ancient crypt, Rapanathuk. It's been there for hundreds of years, and it'll be there for hundreds of years more. And the evil that has slept within it, obviously, is sleeping within it.
Right.
Okay. Well, so then if I go and get in one fight, I can just go back to town and rest, right? Because there's no
pressure.
There's no pressure. There's no time pressure.
Well, in Rapanathuk, the wilderness is probably more dangerous than level 1, so that will kill you.
Right. and to be fair, that is true, but that is actually something that kind of is weird to me, because it's really strange, right? That the dangerous part isn't the dungeon. Yeah. That always feels very strange.
It gets dangerous very quick. It's just,
but and obviously that only works for a certain period of time before then the wilderness is trivial as well. Yeah.
Correct.
So now was and again, so a lot of different entrances. You guys didn't even when you went to level 2 initially, okay, you did it by swimming underneath the docks.
That's right.
You came in through the sea cave and you fought the river drake.
Yeah.
And then again, you basically did that level backwards.
Yep.
Right. And then throughout these levels, there was entrances and tunnels, and you could re-enter it. And then eventually you discovered the teleportation network, which I thought was such a cool touch.
Yep.
That was done really, really well. There's all these really cool, each level kind of has a sort of secret, hidden, out of the way spot where you can basically link to a teleportation network. So basically, once it's like a checkpoint on the level, and now you can just teleport back to it.
And to be fair, to me, it was big. I mean, you guys were saying Mega Dungeon. I mean, to me, I'm not playing anything this big, so these are big levels for me.
Right, for you, yeah. And I think for honestly,
for a lot of AP players,
I've shown people maps of Dragon Stealth, and they were like, that would be my entire campaign, and I was like, that's level 1.
That's level 1.
That's level 1 of the dungeon.
And then
also our players memorize that map,
right.
And also, to be fair, when I say big, I also need to caveat the room sizes, which I know was brought up.
Oh, sure.
By,
we just got ourselves a tip, though.
Dr. Waits.
What's our typical
Jim Scott says, thanks for illuminating the Abomination. Thank you for the support towards our light. Yeah, we've got
light and laptop.
Light and just because you love us. So.
Well, that light.
With that light, and because you love us. So thank you so much for that, GM Scott. Yes, we'll try to illuminate. Again, we're not going to spend all night talking about the Abomination vaults, but
because we just wrapped it up on Friday.
But we've talked about this a lot on this channel. It is really bad in the Abomination vaults.
And we played directly on the VTT with the maps to start. So we know we dove right in. We were crammed in a 3x3 room with our 5-person party and familiars.
5-person party with
large
2
creatures
familiars and a large
people
bear.
are standing outside the room trying to do things. It's like I guess I can't get in.
And we had a vision turned on, like individual vision turned on.
Oh no, you didn't.
So we'd be in a fight. I would literally be standing there with my wizard in a hallway, looking at a hallway, hearing about some battle going on.
Right, it was very immersive.
It was very immersive.
I can't see what's happening.
That's why I don't mind it, because I was like, oh man, this feels like what it'd be like to be in a hallway outside of a room where something exciting's happening.
It is just. I get it. Like, they're trying to do a mega dungeon,
yes,
which means for them a lot of rooms, but they have a problem. That map has to fit.
On that page.
And it can't be so small. Like, if you look at Repent of Thuk, right? Like, some of those maps are really tiny because the scale of it. I mean, like,
that's why they also have a map pack and then more maps to the back.
Sure.
They probably reprint the same map 3 times.
Yeah, but my point is, though, is like that map is more of like for reference. Yeah. This map is like the playing map. You could imagine, like, literally in the Foundry VTT, like that's what you're playing on.
It was kind of ridiculous, and it became a running joke.
And of course, obviously, then because again, when you think about it, like, the map has to fit in the book. It has to fit in the 8.5 by 11. But
and actually, I want to call that out
because it's got to be a battle map. They have to use 5-foot scale.
Yeah.
So that means that
they should just went 10-foot scale because it would have been solid.
We've learned a lot about how these guys build their products over the past couple of years, and we know a lot gets lost in the layout. I mean, just look at the remaster and what we've just gone through there. So I want to point out that, like, I think when we're being critical of some of this stuff, we're not just targeting like the guy who wrote this adventure, right? Because we don't know where the exchange occurred. I find it personally unlikely that the people writing these adventures were focused on 5-foot long hallways.
I agree.
I think that, they tried to make the dungeon the way they wanted to make the dungeon, and then editing and layout came back and we're like, listen, this has to look beautiful on a page, and we have margins that take up half the page, so you need to make your dungeon map this big.
Now, to be fair, we've seen this in a lot of other settings, other APs.
Sure.
Well, it's a classic Paizo
it happens.
Right?
Well, it happens, I think, even in D&D.
It probably does happen even in 5e.
But what
I don't know as much.
But I would say once you pull this out of the VTT and doubled up the map size, it felt very nice.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like, if we were always running at 2x, or like someone said here, 1 square is equal to 10 feet, I think it's actually pretty nice.
Yes.
1 square, 10 feet, I think that is a nice dungeon.
Yeah, and so KC said, was this the one where you periodically send a random encounter to the town? Yes. So in the book, they have a special thing, which they call the Dark Tide or something, where the Gauntlet will fire a beam at the Otari's graveyard to sort of illuminate, raise the undead, and a dead tide is what it's called. But then the party has to go and fight it. But in the book, that's it.
Yeah, it's just a one and done, right?
It's a one and done. And I said, oh, no, I want that kind of TikTok climb pressure. So what I did is I said, hey, that's going to happen once a month, when the moon is full.
Right.
But as the Gauntlet's power grows, so does the power of the beam.
Yep.
And so each month, that graveyard battle is going to go up by, 2 encounter levels.
Yeah.
So a month from now, you guys better be level 3. And a month after that, you better be level 5.
Yeah.
And a month after that, you better be level 7, or beat the dungeon, right, before it becomes too hard. And then she does the unleashes the big full thing. So I thought that was an interesting fix. And again, there were a lot of touchstones in the dungeon. I liked that you could see the Gauntlet's footprint throughout the levels.
Reminded me of the Beholder Tube.
It reminded me of the Beholder Tube.
Yeah, it gave you a sense of
place.
Place. That's a good word. Yeah, you really felt like, especially even like the spiral staircase. Like, I think it was in level 4, where you could go like right down to like level 7. Like, you could skip ahead. You're like, yeah, but do I want to? Like, you could smell the sulfur from below. And you're like, oh man, I get the feeling like we should not go down there. Like, that was kind of cool. That was fun.
Yeah. And Sean says it's actually supposed to be once a month. But Sean, but I don't think it scales. So that's I could be wrong. But that is like, I believe in the module. It doesn't scale. So it's just kind of like, okay, so this is just a bunch of zombies. My party's level 5. Like, what do they care? You know? It's more of just like, guys, don't forget tonight. Set your watch back and set your clocks back and go deal with the zombies in the graveyard. Okay, like, how many zombies are even left? Haven't they all been raised? Interestingly, I mean, this is just kind of a random aside, but like in old school D&D, original D&D, 10 feet was the default setting, or 10 foot was the default thing, and it was hallways were 10 feet wide, but it was even more than that, because the default presumption of D&D was that 3 men could fight abreast.
Right.
So I actually think
3 men could fight, so it should be 15 feet.
I actually think hallways should be 15 feet wide. And if you've played a lot of D&D grid-based miniatures, and think about what a 15-foot hallway would feel like in a D&D game, you start to realize, that would probably actually feel really good. That you need 3 people to hold the line, and I think it'd be really interesting.
I kind of like 3. 3 is nice. Again, when I see the map, I instantly just go, all right, 10-foot squares. Like it just feels so much better. There's more room to move around. There's more combat tactical maneuvering that you can do.
It's cinematic tactical maneuvering.
Cinematic tactical maneuvering.
So with all that being said, I thought book 1, which was the first 4 levels of the dungeon, I thought were really well done.
I had a great time.
Yeah, and we played that on Foundry.
Yeah, I like book 1. I'm trying to think. We talked about the maps. I'm trying to think. Was there anything I didn't dislike in book 1?
And I thought the levels were cool, like the level, cool. The level that had like the ghoul cult that were all the
librarians,
the librarians and stuff.
I was feeling it. I was really immersed in it. I was literally, if you just took that and made it 10-foot map, it was beautiful.
Right.
Like I had a really good feeling for the book 1.
From a prepared, because I was playing a wizard at that point. From a prepared caster standpoint, I did appreciate the level designs a little bit because I felt like I could prepare more, knowing that we're going to fight ghouls. I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to prep a lot of like reflex targeting spells because these guys are going to own it, right?
There's also like the devil contract stuff we were trying to find, and also what's kind of cool is there were like different staircases and different portions. Like you could find the staircase over here, but then there's a different staircase in a different part of the dungeon. And then Derik would be like, all right, guys, where do you want to go? It's like, okay, we'll go back to level 5, and then, okay, what staircase do you want to go to? You discovered one under a pile of rubble or something. It's like, okay, well, we got to figure this out. Like, which route do we want to take down?
That's just part of good dungeon design, honestly.
Yeah, so I thought it was really good.
So book 1 was really, really solid. So
I also like
we finished book 1. Oh, sorry.
We often make fun of how Paizo writes their APs, particularly when they're chaining adventures together. I really appreciate that they introduced Balcor very early as the main villain of the entire adventure, which is great. You know who this, the fact I could tell your name, right?
She was repeated a lot.
Yeah.
We knew.
You knew why you were in this dungeon. You knew who you're going up against, right? And I like the lore around that, right? From the very beginning, you're getting things like the Rose Guard, but you're also getting a lot about Nimbleth and that chapel.
And on level 1
was so cool.
The chapel was very cool.
And it really just like, even at the very beginning of the adventure, not only do you know who the main villain is, you're also learning who is driving that villain, right? And what the stakes are and how that's being set up. And that's really good because like you don't get that. Like Rise of the Rune Lords. The entire adventure path is called Rise of the Rune Lords. The Rune Lord doesn't rise until the last adventure.
Spoilers.
Right.
Spoilers for a 20-year-old adventure path. Also, Bob died in that adventure.
But also you'd be like, if someone didn't know the name of it, they'd be like, I have no idea what this is about.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, also you found out like great lore about like there was like the Rose Guard or whatever it was. Right. Like you would like need something like a sword that a guy had in town. Like
to break the portal through.
There was lots of callbacks, which I was like, again, I felt like book 1 was intertwined with the graveyard, the city, the lore of the dungeon felt really nice.
Right.
I also actually like that it's the only AP I've seen where they threw an extreme encounter at straight up at the party.
Yeah, the void glutton.
Yeah,
that thing was no joke.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty mean.
Yeah.
So again, we had a lot of fun with it, and we finished book 1, but we were busy, life and the channel, and so we kind of put a kibosh on it. We said, hey, this is a great spot. We got to level 4. They killed Bollig. And we said, okay, end.
Yeah, you fine patrons took our time all of a sudden.
That's right. We had too much time. It was too much responsibilities here.
I do feel like the level 4 boss of book 1 was cool, but also both times got shut down.
Yeah. Well,
who was the one that you slowed?
Yeah, so very famous one.
Because remember, we fought him twice because Derik respawned him.
Right. So to be clear, what happens at the end of book 1 is you fight Belcora's former apprentice, who is named Volek. And he is like a worm that walks. He's like a undead that's made up a bunch of bugs.
Used to be
a
dark elf.
Used to be a drow, and he's a wizard. He's a caster, and you fight him in this room.
I know nothing about it. I just know how fast it stopped.
And we played, and I don't remember exactly how or why, but maybe I let him roll Arcana or something for initiative. But Aaron's wizard got high on the initiative, cast slow, and Volek critically failed.
Yeah.
So he was slowed too for a minute. And he's a wizard.
He's a wizard, so he's done.
So he couldn't cast a spell.
All right, the night's over, guys.
And
Derek just went,
I just deleted him from the thing. I said I'm not gonna like spare him. I'm gonna spare him from
real
that.
quick.
I'm gonna spare him from that ignominious defeat. Yeah. I'm like they told me Finger of Death was removed from this game. They were wrong. Okay, it was
slow, no in cap, totally fine.
Yeah, slow 2, no in cap, totally fine. So anyways, he was dead. So what happened was like a year passed.
Yes,
and we were playing again, and then because we had been playing like kind of in a hybrid setup. And because some of our friends like Kaz were just super busy, we said, okay, we're just going to be playing in person.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Let's pull out Abomination Vaults and let's play it in person. And we'll start off where we went in, but it'll kind of be a semi retcon. We'll pick up with new characters.
Yeah.
And we'll kind of assume that they are kind of carrying on the adventures of the old.
I kept my old character.
Yeah, you did originally.
Yes.
No, because you changed it to a barbarian.
You're right. No, I did change it to a barbarian.
Right.
You were a ranger.
You were a Death Warden dwarf ranger.
Yes.
With a 2-handed axe.
Yeah.
And then you became a Death Warden dwarf barbarian.
Yes.
With a 2-handed axe.
Yes.
With the Ghost Hunter archetype.
Yes.
Right. In all cases.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it was almost the same character. You just got rid of ranger and replaced it with barbarian. You got rid of one bad class and replaced it with another.
I found that out later.
So
I found out how upset I was with it.
Yeah, now to be clear, Smith in chat said, to be fair, they knew about the Void Glutton in advance, and they had learned about it, and they knew that it was basically a big will-o-wisp. So they knew that it was immune to all magic except for magic missiles.
I mean, we fought will-o-wisp and still tried to hurt them with magic after finding out that they were immune to magic.
That was during
within
cast
the
electric
same
arc at least 7 times on a will-o-wisp.
Right, so they knew definitely what will-o-wisps were and weren't, thing. And so everybody in the group basically just had scrolls of magic missile.
Yep.
Even the barbarian.
Yep.
Because you had access to a cult.
Oh yeah,
because
you were
a cult class. So so in the fight versus the Void Glutton, you didn't rage because that would shut down your ability to cast spells, and you just pulled out scrolls of magic missile.
That's the best way to win. It's pretty easy.
Yeah. So so we started again. I said, guys, we have to fight Volek again. He deserves a second chance.
Yes.
And he did. He lived like 2 rounds.
So the issue the second time was, so we doubled the room size of everything.
Oh,
yeah. So Derik actually made these maps like usable.
And so that's great. We can walk around the room now. The problem is the majority of this PF2 spellcasting is based on 30 foot.
Yep.
And the worm that walks doesn't walk very fast.
He walks just real slow. Yeah, so what ended up happening is Volek basically couldn't like move and keep up to cast a spell with the party at the same time. So they beat him again pretty easily.
Yep.
But then we dove into it. Now, this is something, huge shout out for Pathfinder 2nd Edition, because I gotta say, I think it worked great. In fact, I think it worked better than the way we were playing it before. Because in Pathfinder 2, because of the way the XP system works, if you have 4 party members, so they were going on a level 5 of the dungeon, and the encounters assume that the party's level 5. You need 4 level 5 party members. But if you and all the encounters are based around that assumption. But here's the cool part about it. Because of the math of the game, if you have 3 party members, which is all we had. Originally, we had 5. That was when we were playing remote and virtually. We had 2 people who couldn't make it because they were remote. We were playing in person. So it was just Bob, it was Smith, and our buddy George. So we had 3 people. But when you do the math, you realize if you make the players 1 level higher, so 3 level 6 players, then all the encounters are exactly the same. Now, of course, they're not exactly the same because, now there's like if 1 party member drops, you're losing a third of your party instead of a quarter of your party. You found that out the hard way. But so I would say it's a little swingier.
It's swinger, yeah. But it's totally playable.
But it was totally playable. In fact, it was fun. It was quick.
It was actually
fast.
very fun.
It was very quick. Combats were faster. And, not everyone has this opinion, but I've seen a few people on the Discord talk about PF2 and go, it doesn't feel very fun. Or more specifically, we don't feel like big damn heroes. With the +1 level but -1 group member, you feel like a big damn hero because you don't have the action economy, right? A lot of times Derek's outnumbering us.
Yeah.
Right? But you're critting more. They're filling your saves more. They're missing you. Yeah, you feel sweet.
It felt good.
It feels a little bit close to like that 3rd edition where you're like walking in and just kicking ass.
Well,
right?
and we talked about this. You look at in-cap spells, and when you're fighting against things that are supposed to be your level, basically, if you want your in-cap spells to be useful, you have to use your highest level spell slot. And even then, it might not be enough.
Right.
Well, but because you all were 1 level higher than you were supposed to be, that meant that you got your in-cap spells a little earlier, so you could actually use them against the foes you were fighting. And more to the point, you could use in-cap spells that were a level lower than your highest level, and they would still work.
Yep.
And you have an additional reason to use in-cap spells, because if you could one-shot and take out a dude, that makes all the difference when you're down a man.
When you're undermanned. Yeah.
I would recommend if you get the chance to try it, try going down a party member, but going up a level. I think you'll have a lot of fun. But don't go down. Because if you go down, the math hurts you hard.
So this is where the rubber meets the road, which is it's me, it's Derik. I'm playing a mega dungeon. So I had random encounters.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. The adventure says you should have random encounters, but then they do nothing to give them to you, right?
Yes. They basically have a sidebar in the beginning, I think, of the book, and they basically say, hey, mega dungeons usually have random encounters. We didn't include any, but, if you want to.
Right.
Oh, it said that verbatim?
I mean,
I'm teasing.
That might be what it says. It's about that helpful. And so I ended up creating some random encounter tables for levels. So now we're going into book 2.
Yes.
Right. Which is levels 5, 6, and 7.
And so just to recap,
Which
book
is still pretty
2,
cool.
we played this in person. We played it with minis, with books. Bob had his computer, but Derik and I were very analog.
Right.
And we had 3 people, 1 level higher. So different than book 1 where we were virtual.
And this time, Smith was a sorcerer.
I was a sorcerer.
And originally, our buddy George was a rogue who had. We weren't using free archetype or anything like that.
Correct.
So you were a sorcerer who had some sort of.
I took wizard archetype.
No, you took the. Did you take wizard archetype or did you take the book feat? Anyways, I don't remember. But we had a rogue originally, and then Bob was
both.
Bob was. Oh, you did pick both.
I was an imperial sorcerer who took, not Crossblood Evolution, who took arcane evolution.
That's it.
And with my feats
dedication,
took wizard dedication.
Wizard dedication. Okay, and then Bob was a barbarian, and so. In that instance, we go into level 5, and I was playing with random encounters. And so what would end up happening is after a fight, the party would want to treat wounds and heal and use medicine or whatever to get back to full. But I was rolling on a flat check, a DC like 18, and then the longer they stayed there, the DC would get lower and lower. And of course, I'm rolling this out in front of the party members. And so I'd be like, okay, 18. You guys want to go again? 16. Okay, you guys want to go 14? And then there were some incidences that happened. And what ended up happening is Bob ended up getting killed.
Yeah.
Basically, there was a series of events where I needed to roll higher than 10 and didn't for an entire day.
Yeah. It was rough.
Which generated endless random encounters.
It did generate endless random encounters.
At the same time, Bob was having
midlife crisis.
And didn't rage as a barbarian, which meant he couldn't use any of his class features. So then he was just standing in a corner getting his shit pushed in.
Yeah, those Driders like stuck me on the wall.
Yeah.
And which actually that was like my first time fighting a Drider. I'm like, these things are so sweet. like there were some good monsters there until it got really weird in the Bestiary 2.
Yeah.
But
we'll talk about that.
until Bestiary 2 got involved, like the monsters are sweet. The Hydra was really cool, though we shut it down. I shut.
That was your kinesis to shut down. We'll get to the kinesis in a moment.
Like it was kind of fun. Like we were playing up a level and it was fun. And then we could not get the damn portal open, and we were
5 was a little weird, but not bad by any means.
That's right. Level 5
which is the one where we were sliding down the torture ramps. Was that 5?
That was on your way to level 6.
Okay, yeah.
So level 5 is where the game, in my opinion, again, new author, and I know I'm biased here. I can't help it. But I think it comes down to this. I know what a Drider is. You know what a Drider is. And maybe Bob didn't know what a Drider is. But the fact of the matter is, a Drider, fundamentally, is it's like a big spider, but it's like a centaur. It's got the body of a twisted dark elf as its like the top half. And everybody kind of gets it.
Yeah.
What ends up happening is in book 2 of the Abomination Vaults, they start using a lot more of what I will call the weird piezo shit. Okay?
Yeah. Monsters with names you don't even know.
Bestiary 2, all the names that you're like, how do I pronounce this?
Bestiary 2 monsters where you go, well, they had to fill the book with something. And so you end up just having this like random array of flesh warps that are, quite frankly, difficult to describe.
Yeah.
What they even look like, let alone what they do. And more importantly,
you had to keep showing us pictures. So I'm like, I don't even understand what you're saying.
And I like to think that I'm pretty good with words. And I'm just like, these creatures just aren't, in my opinion, very evocative.
Yeah.
It's just like a random sludgy creature with hands. And I
kept using that same mini again.
Yeah. And they have all these, and the other thing is, they have all these abilities and you're like, I don't even know why these things have these abilities. And like, it just seems like completely random. And so there was just a lot of feeling there of just like all these aberrations being sort of this randomness.
It felt overly random to an extent where like, we almost didn't care, right? Like we'd walk in a room, more weird things that look like worms, I guess, because that's the mini we're going to use, and Derik doesn't know how to describe this.
The top ones, when like the cultists with the library, it felt so
they had very
thematic,
distinct rooms.
but it felt thematic.
Exactly.
Now I felt like it's just a monster. It's like a slimy monster with a different name.
Yeah.
Like I have no idea what it is, but it's just and random.
It could be a gray blob.
Yeah,
like,
slime monster number 3 with some weird ability.
And I know I'm a classic type D&D player. It's like just give me I don't know, especially in a mega dungeon. Like give me these classic monsters. It's a big thing for me. So level 5 started off a little weird, but it was still
okay.
fun.
It was still fine.
It was still totally passable. And then you guys went to level 6.
Yes.
And level 6 for us is where the wheels went off the rail a little bit.
That was bad.
Okay, so level 6 features a bar. Okay.
Well, before that, we should say that
you died.
I died.
And so then you came back and made a kineticist.
I'm like, the kineticist is out, and people are saying it's really sweet. I'm gonna test it out.
Right.
It's really sweet. It's so good. And it's so much better than everything else.
And I should also point out that like a session into level 6, the rogue cleric died.
Right.
And then he made a fighter.
Yes.
Right.
And so now the party.
So everyone took it seriously by the time we got to book 2.
So the party ended up being a sorcerer, arcane sorcerer who had crossblood evolution, heal.
Yes.
So you had access to the heal spell.
Yes.
You ended
you
end up having a wood earth kineticist who had access to healing nut and had access to all the vitality damage, the high armor class, but also the every round temp HP. Then we had a fighter. And the best part about it, my favorite part about this, and I think you'll know where I'm going with this. Our buddy George lives, if he's in chat, hello George.
Hi George.
He lives to troll us.
Yep.
Yes.
And especially when there's a game that he thinks is stupid or dumb, he will go out of his way to make what he views to be as a quote unquote worthless, stupid character just to prove how stupid and dumb the game is. Right? So
really, Bob, we were fighting at like
2.5?
2-person party. Actually, honestly, for a while there,
fighter.
it was a 1-person party.
But he picked a fighter, and that's where he fucked up.
Yep.
He did fuck up. He thought he could make a bad fighter, and Pathfinder 2 doesn't let you.
It just wouldn't let him.
He was so mad because he was so effective. We'd be watching George like crit. Fuck.
God, crit. Derik, I forgot. That's a flail. Spike chain's a flail. They're all prone.
Yeah, they're prone.
Also,
now.
they're bleeding. Also, this rune makes them D12 bleeding.
Yeah,
so it's like, okay,
he had the most random feats.
Like
too,
he just took everything that
he just destroyed it all.
It's like if you could pick class fighter and then just click a button that would just randomly pick feats and randomize what you had. This kind of what his character was. And it worked.
Yep.
It was one of the most effective. It was arguably one of the most effective characters in the entire party.
Oh yeah, easily.
And so, but anyways, point was, we had a fighter, we had a kineticist, we had a sorcerer with heal, and all arcane spells. It was pretty broken from that part out. But level 6, again, you're going through this dungeon. It's a mega dungeon, and then of course, very famously, there's a bar on level 6. Now, that in of itself doesn't bother me. It's weird. But it doesn't bother. I know it bothers you.
It bothered me right away.
Which is crazy because I'm going to go on a limb here and say the bar itself didn't bother you.
No, because it's not my favorite trope. It is a classic trope.
Is it?
For mega dungeons that introduce
a bar in the middle of the
more specifically like the neutral layer of
right. Like
if you play the neutral zone.
If you've played D&D for a long time, think Skullport.
Yeah.
Right from Waterdeep.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's not a good place.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like a.
Repentance has what is it, Goblin Town or something?
Something like that. And, 7 Pillared Hall from 4th edition from Thunderspire.
Exactly. So it's a thing. Again, it's not my favorite thing, but if done well, it's okay.
Yes.
And here's the thing: in Glorian, it can be done well because you have the Darklands, and all dungeons eventually connect to the Darklands,
which this one does.
And so it totally makes sense that there might be drow hanging out here or neutral parties, and that this could be a trade area. Hell, I mean, with minimal effort, you could be like, hey, Absalom is literally a week down the road. So this could actually have been like a substantial Darklands kind of trading.
Right.
None of that was taken into consideration.
No,
it was done to be a joke.
I don't think it was going to be a joke.
I think, I
don't know what it was done.
Irreverent, whatever it is. That it is. It's like
yes,
that meme content, right?
Yeah, I was like awesome through the first few books, and then we're on 5. It's getting weird, but I'm still feeling dungeon. I'm the Flesh Corp stuff. I'm still feeling dungeon. Right when the tavern got, my vibe was gone.
The
like,
other
what am I
part
doing now?
There was no, and I get it. I think there's supposed to be some NPCs that like tell you about this or warn you about this.
Not really.
No.
I
thought there was some drow that's like, oh hey, by the way, but maybe I'm misremembering. But anyways,
there was some blood in the walls that don't drink the drink.
Well, there was no like warm up to it. You're like,
no.
we were literally in a T section.
Derik was like, you hear music.
Right. We're in the tea section where we're hearing music. We went the other way, open the door. A guy attacks us and fights to the death.
Yep.
We finish that
thing
up.
guarding the staircase.
Go the other way, and it's a bar full of people. And I'm like, this is 60 feet away from each other. What are we supposed to kill these people?
Which you did.
Like, which we did. We'll get to that. But the setup is trying to imply that even though these things are literally the same flesh warp that you've been savagely murdering for a level and a half now, these ones are not supposed to just murder. I don't know how you're supposed to figure that out because they're literally the same. There's literally a Drider sitting in that room.
That is true. That's the bouncer.
Reading erotica.
Reading drow porn. Here's the thing.
I thought when you told me that you were just joking.
I had to show you. I did have to show you in the book. You did not believe me.
I thought that I was like, we were in a dungeon surviving this is like a deadly dungeon that we're trying to survive, and now all of a sudden we're
and Bob's actually scared because he's already died.
Right.
And I'm like, we're in a bar where it's like goofy. There's a band playing, and it's not crazy anymore. And there's a drow reading erotica. I'm like, I thought we were in a deadly dungeon. I'm so confused right now. And my vibe just fell off the rails.
None of that bothers me.
That I lost it.
Here's what bothers me. There is essentially 3 pages
that bothered me too.
dedicated to the NPC profiles for all the members of this band. And they're like, there's like and they're a bunch of, it's a motley collection of various ancestries. And then there is a whole system, a little sub-quest system for basically Battle of the Bands. And as if here's the thing. Even, that is obviously very dumb. But here's the part about it. This bar in the kitchen has several prisoners who are being tortured for food. And you freed them. Who are being tortured for either food or for slavery. And you're and like what they expect the party to go and participate in a battle of the bands rock off to see who can melt faces harder. It was such
stupid nonsense.
It was so nonsense. It was so stupid.
Well, Smith melted their faces.
Yeah, so Smith threw a fireball. Thank God. Okay, and they all basically died. So.
Yeah, it was the most pointless.
It was actually an amazing fireball.
It was the best part. It was the best part of you being higher level than I could ever hope and dream.
I'm happy I could help.
Everybody just critically.
For my part, I took great pleasure.
It's not often. I mean, I threw them out in front, but it's not often that I fudge. I've tried to avoid it throughout my whole life. But if there was ever a time that I was going to break my vow and start fudging, I would have been like, "This is the time." Oh. They all rolled that once.
Yeah.
What a weird coincidence.
Yes.
Yeah. I remember we killed them in a couple seconds, and you're like, okay, I guess these 3 pages of backstory about the Battle of Bands is worthless. I was like, what is even happening?
Right. Oh, yeah. I showed you the book. I was like, well, this is what happens in the round 2 of the Battle of the Bands.
And that is what pisses me off when we have that. And I was describing Derik earlier in the Discord today, watching him have a stroke in real time because Derik went to run an encounter, so he's got AV open, and the encounter's like, all right, you're going to need these 2 critters. They're in Bestiary 2. Derik opens Bestiary 2. All right, I got the critters. Okay. Oh, they have generic monster traits in Bestiary 1. Let me open that up.
Yeah.
Oh, and spells from the core rulebook. Oh, and Secrets of Magic.
Yeah.
Okay, 5 books. Ready to run this encounter.
Yeah.
Instead, they could have put that in the spread. We showed you those nice 4E spreads.
Trust me. When I saw those 4E spreads, I was like,
literally
this is
2
how
pages.
it should be done.
Right? But no, instead we get...
Well, and that's
also why we don't get bigger maps.
That's what
I don't understand. You couldn't do the map, but you had to waste 3 pages of nonsense.
But I cannot stress again the layout things, right?
Yeah.
Like, why don't druids get enhanced cantrip? Because of layout. Like, why are the problems in the book, in the games that we have? Because of layout.
Well, to be fair, they did just do a reprint, so maybe Druid will get that in Core 2.
Yeah, we'll see.
Oh, no, it's in Core 1. I don't think they got it.
They didn't get it back?
I don't think so. I don't know. Anybody in chat, let me know if you know if the...
Yeah, so sorry. He said running Archives of Nethys. I mean, that's I had that up, and I would be looking up stuff for Derik sometimes, too, because I'm like... This is ridiculous.
Right. Well, to be fair, I mean, part of the thing is, yes, but like that's kind of our point. Like this game has gotten to the point where playing it with the books they sell you is basically impossible.
Right.
It is impossible. And, I don't want to be cross-referencing spreadsheet diagrams on Archives of Nethys to run a game.
Yeah, it got a little annoying.
It got annoying. So that really hurt us in terms of our approach.
That was the low bar.
My mood just crushed.
That was the low point.
We almost quit.
We did.
That was terrible.
It was
we
really
basically
bad.
We pretty much did it.
And so we basically resolved because Bob is, FOMO and wants to finish everything.
Yeah, if there is something to finish, we Belcour was there from the start. Yeah. I wanted to defeat her, and solve this issue. Like, I want to get to the end. Yeah. Well, I guess we got to go through more of this bestiary too and figure this out. I'm like, I really don't want to do that. And we were also coming near the end of the year, and so Derik was like, I got a solution.
Yeah. So luckily, what ended up happening is level 7 didn't take any time at all, and then we did end up going.
That
to
was the
book 3.
devil one, right?
Yeah, that was the devil.
Yeah.
And we went to level 8 and 9 and 10, and I said I was looking through these, and I said, so this is where there's a couple of structural problems. Well, a couple of good things for starters. Number one is brilliant. Because you already know who Belcora is.
Yes.
But what better way to get mileage out of the Belcora than the fact that they have the ability, because she's a ghost.
She's a ghost, yeah.
She can go and fight the party on level 8.
That's really cool.
And, she's kind of in a weakened state, and, she might get disrupted. She might get, whatever. But the party gets to, they're like being tormented by her, taunted by her. They don't have it goes, is Belcora haunting us? That is a really, really cool effect.
Yes.
And then it just builds it up to that final confrontation. You've had the taste of fighting her.
That's such a rare thing in these games, because normally it's like the only time you meet the villains when you go to kill them.
And then they don't say anything. They fight to the death. Right. You've never had an interaction with them. And then 18 seconds later, the entire campaign, which may have taken you years to play,
is all done
because they're dead.
Right.
So the other thing, though,
I guess, or they show up randomly where they could destroy you, and they don't. Man, I guess I'm just gonna leave.
Oh yeah, Quest for the Frozen Flame.
Quest for the Frozen Flame is not the way to do it either. But the other thing, which I thought was a little strange, is and they kind of alluded to this earlier with Volek, but you suddenly have this quests on this new quest because it's a new author. And this new author thought it'd be really cool that you have to complete this quest to get these 8, these 4 fulcrum lenses. I will say that it was really surprising to me that in Pathfinder 2, they had a final villain who you didn't have to do a single hit point.
Had MacGuffins.
Didn't have to have a single hit point of damage done to it to kill it.
I thought that was very unexpected.
Right. And it made that fight versus Belcora very interesting.
Yeah.
And
much
very
different.
unique and very different. It felt like you had to use different parts of your brain.
Yeah.
And ended up being really creative and try to come up with these ways to sort of imbue her with the shards of Nimbeloth.
Yeah.
Which is also kind of like and again, going back to what Smith was talking about, they do a really great job of you kind of know who Nimbeloth is and you understand the tie-in and the connection. So I thought that part was done well. But
I agree.
But for me,
not gonna lie, I was kind of hoping for a secret you beat Belcora and then Nimbeloth reaches in.
I am the hatred.
Yes.
You level up to 20, and now you have to fight the god of the outer
space.
That's my JRPG love coming in.
That's your JRPG. Well, no, in Fabula.
Hey, listen, that happened in 3rd edition.
No, if we were playing Fabula Ultima, I would totally be okay, she's done, but she's gonna escalate to Supreme Villain and be like, I am your avatar. I will become the destroyer of worlds. Yeah. So.
But no, you had that in 3rd edition, right? You're fighting what's his name, Asherdalon, and then you think and this dragon's like a god amongst dragons, right?
Dragon,
and you've been hearing about him for the entire campaign, and then you finally beat him, and no small feat, by the way. Mm-hmm. And then that's when the freaking epic Baylor rips out of his heart to fucking kill you.
Baylor.
Yeah. Well, the Baylor had a whip that basically could drain 20 levels out of you. And when I mean drained, this is 3rd edition, those were gone.
Yeah. I remember you guys.
Yeah.
The losing level thing is it's kind of fun.
Well, this is why Rich Camp, shout out to Scotty Cocker if he's into the channel,
Rich
was terrified. Is he?
He
is. That's so epic, bro. Yeah.
He just wrote it.
Rich was terrified of this Baylor. And the entire time, for fucking years, we were like, Rich was like, guys, when we get there, I'm running away. I'm not fighting that thing. I'm not fighting that thing.
I'm not losing all my levels.
I'm not losing all my levels. So we're like, all right, Rich, we got it. Well, that's fine. You can go. Right. And then Rich won initiative. I'll never forget. He was just like, yeah, fuck it. Church! And then, of course, he crit with his Vorpal sword and
cut off its head.
Is that why he wrote not so...
not so epic.
Yeah.
So, anyways, point is, I thought the ending was fine. I thought using the fulcrum lenses was interesting. I thought it was cool. I thought it kind of brought the whole thing full circle. And, being a ghost, you have to kind of come up with some creative ways to sort of defeat her. But again, I do feel like, that was a thing. So,
So you just basically had to skip those levels.
So I had to skip the last 2 levels. They were a little long, and we wanted to wrap it up.
8 and 9.
8 and 9. Mm-hmm. And then we did 10, and that was, again, I thought it was fine. So the long and the short of it was,
when you say fine, some of those challenge rooms were
okay.
I was like, how are you gonna leave off the spirit and
yes.
And was it spirit?
It was like
spirit, despair, and the
soul,
swamp.
despair, and swamp.
Yeah. Soul, because it was
Soul. That's what it was.
Yeah, Soul, Despair, and Swamp. The three tenets of Nimbeloth.
And Swamp was the most deadly.
And Swamp was the last one, the most deadly. It was also the one that Aaron completely invalidated with a disintegrate spell. But to be fair, you were never supposed to be level 11.
That's right.
So
that's the one part where us being higher level kind of effed it up.
Yeah, you kind of messed it up. But but again, all in all, I think the first 4 levels are really, really
Amazing.
good. If you don't want to get so deep into a mega dungeon, maybe you're worried that your group is going to not be interested in doing 10 levels. It's a long slog. Just make Volek the bad guy.
Yeah.
Make him the bad guy instead of Belcora.
Collapse the hallway behind the Void Glutton.
Yeah, don't even worry about the Void Glutton, or make that just a room or something like that, and then or have the Void Glutton be like a bonus encounter.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
And then you can have you get 4 levels with the first book instead of. And
I just buy book. Yeah, book 1.
I think
so
honestly,
good.
I can honestly say with
one's good.
with full face, buy book 1. It is really, really good. And you know what? It was by James Jacobs, and he's kind of the GOAT, so that doesn't really surprise me. Book 2 is kind of weird and disjointed. It has a lot of strange monsters.
I'm sure some people like it.
I'm sure. And of course it has this bar scene.
This is our opinion,
Yeah. And then book 3 is fine, but book 3 starts getting
I wish it tied in more to the rest of the books.
It just feels kind of like it just kind of goes off and does its own thing.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, that's like, coming back to Star Wars after someone makes was it episode 8?
Sure.
You're kind of like, what do I do now? I guess I'll start over, right?
Right. You just,
I still stand by what I've said a long time ago, which is if you're new to Pathfinder 2 and you want to get into it, get the beginner's box, which is great. It takes place in Antari, so it will naturally lead right in to the Abomination vaults. And if you're doing this virtually on Foundry, Pazzo has done an incredible job with the beginner's box Foundry set, and they also have one for AV. So you can have a complete experience, 1 through 10,
pretty all kind of handled for you.
All handled for you, high quality. It's great. Your mileage may vary on level 6. Rewrite it. If you don't like it, it's not that much to redo.
Right. Like if I was really, like in Quest for the Frozen Flame, I rewrote and changed a lot of encounters. If I had the wherewithal and wanted to do that, I would have done that for level 6. But again,
and most of book 2 wasn't horrible. It was just a little random, and then that happened.
It was a little random, and then that happened, right?
But I still stand by it. That is a great way to just get everything you need to get into Pathfinder and feel it out, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
All right. So
that was AV.
That was AV.
So you can take your earmuffs off now.
Yeah. So spoilers have ended.
Spoilers have ended.
So the other thing, we had a couple of things. I don't know if there's anybody in chat, Bob. I know you've been
a bunch of people in chat were starting talking about Dragonbane.
Ben went to get a drink because we were talking about Pathfinder. He's back now.
Okay.
One person did say they wanted to come back to ask about Northern Reaches Season 3.
Oh, okay.
Nerdum. And we can get to that in a little bit, but
yeah, well, we can, again.
Well, go ahead and push your questions in, and we'll answer them when we get a chance.
Again, we have basic stuff that we want to talk about, but nothing.
Nothing's concrete tonight.
Yeah,
especially if anybody has a question or we'll answer it. Especially if you tip or a super chat, we'll definitely get to those questions. We're very open now. Yeah,
right. So again, this is a nightlife. It's really just about us kind of hanging out and talking about some of the things that we're kind of experiencing and talking about.
Yeah.
So one of the other things that kind of got talked about, and it's interesting because originally in AV we had a bunch of this and then we didn't. There's been a lot of talk lately about homebrew, and this is more of a philosophical discussion, right? There's a variety of different schools of thoughts, which is one is like, well, that is what a DM does. A DM's job is to homebrew, right, and come up with new things. And if you don't like a rule, change it, right? And if you don't want to, if you don't like that, that's fine. It's your game. You can make it whatever you want.
Do you think that's a thing
Which
that
is
like
true.
veteran GMs figure out? Because as like a newer GM, and I know some might like.
I mean, it's in the book.
Well, I'm just saying, like Nick, our buddy, like if I told him that he could change rules, he'd be like, "What? No, the rules are in the book. Like I'm not supposed to." Well, the rule says that on page 37, this is supposed to happen, and this is what we're doing.
Right. Well, and that is
people don't always like to go outside, or I feel like they need permission. But maybe they don't know they have permission.
Right. Well, I mean, that's one of the reasons why most of these books start with something equivalent to Rule 0, where it basically says, this game is yours. Do with which you please.
I take that and go,
right.
I'm supposed to read page 37. It says there's a rule.
So that's interesting. But, because there's a difference between a house rule and a ruling. But I think the thing is for me, and I'm very, I'm certainly guilty of making a lot of house rules as well. But there is a point where there's this obsession, and I've seen it even in game design, where people will be like, you know, oh, I love Lancer, right? Okay. And it's like, okay, well, it's like 4E, it's mech, but it's like 4E's combat system, but it's like Blades in the Dark, everything else.
Those just hacks?
Yeah, but that's my point. Like, I think people use this term hack in like a good way, and to me, a hack is a shitty workaround.
Oh, I would have thought it was a good way. Like we've done a couple hacks of like different things. And
shitty workarounds.
Yeah, but they've been fantastic.
No, because they weren't designed with a purpose.
But they were awesome.
Yeah, that was on accident, not by design.
Apparently, you accidentally fall into those a lot.
That can happen. I'm just saying, like, it's one of those things where it's like, I just feel like people have gotten a little cavalier with, you know, how much they're changing role-playing games. Now, I'm not trying to be like one of these people who say, like, you must play it rules as written. That's different. What I'm suggesting is that, like, if a game has, you know, a system or is not, does not, if it's lacking something or if it does have something, like you just reaching into another system and then bolting it onto another system, I just feel like at a certain point, if you do that enough times, you're just going to end up with a rickety piece of shit.
That's certainly not elegant.
Well, yeah, it's not elegant.
But isn't that like, I'm trying to think, like, if you like a game system and you take a couple other awesome things that would make that system better for your specific group, isn't that like a good thing?
In theory, yes. But like,
I mean, especially if like everyone at the table is like, that's exactly what we want. Like, then you are playing the game you want to play.
Right.
Though I agree, some games are better than others at these things. It just seems like.
Well, I think there's a couple things to consider.
I don't know if I think it's a negative.
One is what I would call, and this is the big one for me, is what I call unintended consequences.
That's fair.
Right? Because when that to me is one of the biggest distinctions between a game designer and a GM who is just making shit up. Mm-hmm. Is someone who actually sat through, thought about all the implications of this.
No, at least as much as they could.
Play tested it.
Yeah.
I mean,
right, and actually figured out like, oh, you know what? Turns out this doesn't work.
Well,
or
DTX, when we did the spells,
you know,
like you were like, oh, I guess I made that too powerful. Where you like just use like the will check to like be able to cast a spell all the time. Like, oh, that's not how I intended that. Right. But it was like unintended consequences. It worked for other things, and in theory, it was going to work until it didn't.
Right, it'll work until it doesn't. Yeah. Now, of course, you might say, well, this is just our home game. Well, you know, if something doesn't work, then we'll just change it again. And it's like, I do think there's some, you know, you lose a little bit of faith with your players when you're basically just constantly being like, yeah, sorry about that. You know, that cool thing I gave you last session? Turns out giving you a focus point, power, paralyze, too powerful. All right, take that back.
Well, I have no problem doing that. I have no problem taking it back.
I think I've only rolled back one thing ever.
We do have a question in the chat. What system would the three of you consider to be a challenging system?
In what context?
Joe, you're going to have to tell us what, because when you say challenging.
To run, challenging like it's hard because it's convoluted.
You know, by the way, Ben in chat did say, he was like 1,000%. My hacks, this was up a little bit.
Workarounds,
he's like, my hacks were shitty workarounds. At least that's how I always feel. Like, I'm always at a point
where he says, but I don't pretend that it was good, even though we had fun. So that's exactly, we weren't pretending it was good, but we all had fun doing it.
Correct.
Or at least.
So what does that mean, right? Because and this is where I worry. But this is where I worry, and I know this sounds horrible and stupid. But this is why I worry about when someone says, well, the point of the game is to have fun. Ooh, I think that's a problematic statement.
I agree with that.
I think the point of the game is to try to do something. And then if people have fun with that, great. If people don't have fun with that, that's okay too, right? This is the Morrow 0 or 10.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm in the middle on that. I like to have fun. Sometimes just have fun.
Well, here's the thing for me, like from an academic.
Roll for comment says, leave the easy coming from him who happens to own a game company publisher.
Who bought the lead designer.
Yeah, I was going to say, leave the game design to Mark Seifter.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I said. Leave the game design to the expert, boys. I love it. Ben, I love it. I made a Deathwatch hack because I didn't have time to read the core rulebook one day. I won't pretend it was fun, even though we had things. Joe, by the way, was saying a challenge the players so they don't curb stomp the extreme encounters. We can get back to that, Joe.
Yeah. Okay. So.
Oh, challenging the players.
Yeah.
Ugh.
The problem with, not to get into Joe's thing because Derek just said we'll talk about it later, but like, I mean, there's a whole of just like assumption being made here of like that like Derik and I care about like balance and that sort of context. But tabling that for a second, I don't like the rule 0-1 conversations because academically it's pointless, right? It's like, imagine if you're going to have a conversation with someone. You and I are going to talk politics. Okay. And I go, well, Bob, it doesn't matter because we're all going to die anyway. And really, like, we're just some people floating on a rock in space.
That's existentialism. Let's get into it.
But it's pointless, right? It doesn't actually do anything.
Yeah, you're right. It doesn't further the conversation.
So it's like, we'll get a conversation on the Discord and like there'll be some good back and forth. And then some jackass will pop in and be like, guys, does it really matter if the table's having fun? Oh, you know what? That's a great point. Let's just never talk about anything ever again. Okay. Hey, I know you asked a question and we were going to try to figure out the pros and cons of your system, but just have fun. Like, so fuck it. It doesn't matter.
No, I will get this. This is getting to objectivity versus subjectivity, right? But just because you had fun with something doesn't make it good.
I would agree with that.
Just because you enjoyed watching a movie does not make it a good movie.
Oh, I don't agree with that. The ones I think are fun are good. No, I'm kidding.
I think it's fine to be like, this is bad and I enjoy it.
Yeah.
That is fine. And so
I don't know.
Okay. What do you mean you don't know? That's like half of the things that you like.
But it's like your opinion, bro. Like I'm having fun or I like it. That's why I like it a lot of times. Because I literally like to do things for fun. Right. Like I like beer and pretzels type of games. Like when you're talking like, oh, that was a really crunchy system. I'm like, no, like I like to have fun. So whatever makes me have fun, that's usually where I lean towards.
Sure.
Like I play the games over and over again on board games that I have the most fun with my friends with.
Right.
Not usually the one I found the most challenging or something like that.
Well, and again, and this is, I think,
what was the best system?
This is why I think you have to, like, and that's why I just think, I think trying to make a game fun or trying to make a rule fun is problematic because fun means so many different things to so many different people.
100%.
And that's what I was saying. If all 5 people were like, that's exactly the rule we want, and everyone agreed, I'm like, then okay, we're okay with it. But I'm like,
I mean, that's probably
you throwing in something could be like really problematic because like they might be having fun, but that person's not. Like you're getting some weird.
Right. And to be fair, this isn't implying
that.
That
a nice super chat here from
Save Versus.
Oh, hey.
I thought it was $5, $50. Oh.
$50. Happy holidays.
Thank you.
There you go buy a new light now.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Because I like you guys. Happy holidays, Smally. On a serious note, this group let me look at games I normally would have passed up with a different set of eyes. And I'm happy to have the Discord group think stuff I get stuck on. Well, we're happy to have you. And
you know what's actually funny? We've heard that a couple times in the past week.
Yeah.
I know I'm a prime example of that because I came in playing D&D and PF2, and now I'm like, we playing Fabulous Ultima and Forbidden Lands soon? Yeah. Like, what's going on?
Right.
4E soon?
I mean, it's a blessing and a curse.
Yes.
It is a blessing and a curse.
Well, now I kind of want to buy all this stuff.
Yeah, Save Versus.
Like
the problem with it is, the way I look at it is like, I mean, this isn't exactly the same thing, but like growing up, I grew up in Ohio. And my family didn't really travel a whole lot, right? But I thought, this was all I knew. This was my home, And then when I got older, I started traveling and I started going to different places of the world and I started seeing different things.
Whoa, Ohio sucks.
And I was like, whoa, Ohio sucks.
It's raining outside now,
it's like it's raining. We won't see the sun for another 4 or 5 months. And so for me, it was like sometimes I think I've seen it in our Discord where people, they get exposed to this new world. And it kind of breaks them.
Oh, 100%. I've seen people like completely just lose their shit.
Yeah, just implode.
Yeah.
Right? Because
when they find out PF2 isn't the best game ever made and that other games exist, it usually destroys them.
And by the way,
which is not a knock on PF2.
It's not a knock on PF2.
Play it.
Yeah. People come there for whatever reason and then they learn about everything else and they are like, holy shit, my world just quadrupled in size.
Right, quadrupled. And because now they go, what game do I play?
Well, that is a big issue.
That just breaks you.
That's the issue we have.
Oh, that's 100% the issue we have. And by the way, we're just as influenced by. Like, there's a lot
people
of
like
games.
Ben and James Scott.
Yeah. There's a lot of games that are out there in the community that have influenced us. Simi and some of those other guys were really pushing Pendragon. Mm-hmm. I did the first look. I was like, oh, that's kind of sweet, and now I'm like, God damn it. That's another one I want to play.
There's too many games.
Oh, there's way too many games.
Mostly.
But yes, thank you, Save Versus. I mean, that is ultimately what we're here for, but it's also, again, it's a blessing.
Yeah, we enjoy the games we like, but we want to try out a lot of different games. We enjoy a lot of different systems, and I don't want to my FOMO, but I don't want to go through and miss out on an opportunity of a great game because I was like, I'm only going to play this game.
That is a relevant topic of conversation because that is something that I've seen Bob himself going through. I mean, it's part of Bob's personality. Mm-hmm. And there was a discussion today, which I was getting maybe it was last night at 3 a.m. I can't remember, but it was basically like, why, there was there was a comment that was being made about like PBTA games and how they're not long enough for some of these people before they end up. And I said, well, why is that? Like, you're obviously very happy watching a movie, maybe even a trilogy. You're obviously very happy watching a 10 or 12 episode TV series and telling this. I go, is the reason you like the games to be that long, you know, is that because Gary Gygax chose to have 20 levels in D&D? Like, if Gary Gygax had chosen there to be 5 levels in D&D, would you be going like, man, like 10 sessions, maybe 15, that's like perfect, right?
Actually, I don't think so, because it's funny. The analogy you brought up resonates with me really well, because I typically prefer long TV shows when I watch, right? And so, like, you know, nowadays everything's 8 to 10 episodes per season, but like, you know, every now and then I'll pop in something that's a little bit older. It's like 24 episodes.
I know, it's like, yeah, it's
like insane. I feel like I'm getting all this content, right? And you know, I watch like Star Trek. I mean, anything sci-fi, fantasy, right? Like I'll watch it, right? But like Star Trek's got like, you know, 7, 8 seasons, depending on which one you're watching, 20 plus episodes each. And the reason I enjoy it so much is because in that case, you know, I love the world. So for me, it's not about rushing to the end. Right. It's about learning more about the world, getting immersed in that world, learning more about the characters, letting them breathe, right? And it's the same kind of thing I'll say to you about why I enjoy long campaigns, right? And letting the world and characters breathe.
And it's interesting that you say that, though, because one something I would say about Star Trek, especially since you were bringing that up, is, and I think this is kind of true of the Star Trek Adventures game, the 2D20. In that game, Star Trek 2D20, there's very limited advancement of your character. Like, if Star Trek Adventures was D&D,
sure,
you would start off, and then like a couple of months.
I am separating those two.
Right, I'm just saying, you start off in as an ensign, and then a couple months later, right, you would be like ripping Borg apart with your bare hands. Right. You're Klingon, obviously. Right. Would be ripping, and you would be
or Cisco,
and you'd be a captain, you know, or you'd be like a commander. Yeah. Right. Whereas you watch the entire length of all of the show, right, and nobody gets a promotion.
Correct. In fact,
the movie,
the hilarious, if you watch Voyager, the best part is Tom Paris, who started the season in prison, started the show at prison, is a lieutenant, recommissioned as a lieutenant, gets demoted, gets re-promoted to lieutenant. This entire time that they're doing this. And by the way, to Picard, okay, I got it. You're not in wartime. Voyager was considered like wartime in the field.
Sure.
Battlefield promotions are acceptable because you are 77 years away.
Is this a Harry Kim joke?
It's a Harry Kim joke. Harry Kim, Ensign Kim, never got promoted beyond ensign. Ensign. That's nothing.
He's on the bridge crew the whole time.
You could take your senior year and go to ROTC and they give you ensign when you go to college.
Yeah.
And he never got promoted. Not even the junior grade lieutenant.
Not even once. But you know, I mean, again, and so I guess my point is,
I was thinking about that because you know me, I like these short, play a lot of different games, ADD personality.
Correct.
But one of my favorite shows is One Piece, an anime, and it's on episode 1100. Like it takes, I'm like, I just was thinking about when you said long seasons. I'm like, oh, I do actually watch that.
You watched One Piece, haven't you?
Yeah.
Isn't that like longer than the time you've been alive?
No, technically not. But
no, technically not. But it might be.
If you started like now, and each one's a half an hour, like it would take months straight, 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like I said, they just released episode like.
How many episodes are in One Piece?
Right now, there's 1,084. But the manga is up to 1,100. So like that's what I'm saying. Like
to put that in comparison, like episode 200 of Stargate's like in season 10.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they're on season 21. Yeah. So it's a ridiculous. But I love that, and so I'm like, oh, maybe I do or don't like long. I don't know what I like. Right? Like, what do I like?
I have no idea. We had a tip come in from Ben. He says the way most people play Star Trek Adventures (STA), they should be right. Well, you know, it's funny that you say that. You know, because. You know, you almost have the opposite problem in Legend of the Five Rings, right? Because in Legend of the Five Rings, you earn a couple points of experience points every session, right? Which is what you use to invest in your things. But because of the way that some people play Legend of the Five Rings, they're like, oh yeah, we spent the last month just role playing at this one tea party,
right?
So when we entered in the morning, we were like neophyte samurai, but now we are like. We have 40 XP.
That literally happens in that introductory adventure that we played. You dipped out.
Oh, the Emerald one.
Some people play like we thought we were a little laggy because like it took us 3 sessions.
It's supposed to be 2 sessions.
Yeah.
It's a beginner box adventure. Supposed to be 2 sessions. We played it in 3.
Some people are like Ven from the Discord on this bit, like Fall of Plaguestone, episode 77, like with that adventure. And they were walking away. They got more more honor than the fucking emperor.
Right. It's like, how long were we in the intro adventure? Yeah, we played about 20, 25 sessions. And
when
I was
you
like,
say how long,
so
we haven't stopped yet.
How many experience points do you have? 100, 120. All my rings are at 5.
Right.
All of my skills are at 5.
They have 120 in the bank. They don't know what to spend it on.
Yeah, they just haven't spent it. But anyways, so I completely believe that. And so, I think one of the things about these long games is like, I think there's a tension between games that have this sort of 0 to hero progression, or just even this kind of level-based progression, right? Whereas like in Star Trek Adventure, it's like very minimal. So I actually think Star Trek Adventure, in a weird way, from a narrative simulation point, it works really well for that.
Agreed.
Because you're going to be like, hey, we've been playing Star Trek Adventure for 3 years, and my lieutenant commander is still a lieutenant commander. And it's like, wow, that's just like the show. But from like a game standpoint, I think there's an innate desire amongst most of us to be like, I want a new.
Actually, with STA, I could see myself not caring about that as much.
About the new widget.
Yeah, because for STA, it would be entirely about like, charting.
It's about the game.
Yeah.
Or it's about what's happening, not about your character.
Yeah,
because I think a
as
lot
long
of
as
people.
something is happening, probably people will be okay.
Well, I think that, the truth.
I don't want to be stagnant.
Yeah, as long as the game isn't boring.
I'm going to go out. Here's my hot take. The reason why so many people nowadays are so obsessed with their characters is because the games and the campaigns they're in fucking suck.
Yes, agreed. 100% agreed. I think that's your problem.
I think that's actually right.
I
think
think
you got called out.
No. I'm not calling you out.
He's saying my campaign sucks.
I'm saying, I'm calling Derik out. I 100% think this is your problem, Bob, because it annoys me how obsessed you are with leveling and getting the next step, blah, blah, blah. And I was thinking about it because it bothers me all the time. Apparently enough that my wife was like, I hope, Bob, it's better for you today. Like, love my wife. She's so good. But I think it's because there's just nothing else that's interesting you. So like, you're like, okay, the only thing I care about is leveling because everything else sucks. So I want to level as much as possible because that's literally the only thing I'm doing. If I'm not leveling, then what am I doing? Nothing. Right?
I don't disagree with you.
Right. And that's the thing. That's not what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Leveling, if anything, is supposed to be the cherry on top, where it's like, hey, we did all that shit. We killed that dragon. We became, lords of the land. We looted this treasure, and I leveled up. Wow.
Which reminds you, like when we played Caves of Chaos, and Keeping the Borderlands, B2.
Keep on the Borderlands.
Yeah. I liked leveling. But it wasn't why I played it.
But it wasn't why you played it.
I was like, we need to I wanted to explore more. I wanted to do more.
So your head was in the game, not in the character advancement. And I think that's why not that we like rub up on each other, but like I think that's why like you and I in Caves of Chaos were pretty much like this.
Oh yeah.
Versus just like well, I just want to level. I don't care. Level. And I'm like, this sucks. Why are we here? What are we doing?
Yeah, I mean, this we call it playing Path Builder.
We call it playing Path Builder.
And I there's a lot of people, and this is, I think that's a knock at Pathfinder. It's not a knock at Pathfinder. There's a lot of people who go, well, playing a Path Builder, if I just make a level 20 character in Path Builder, it's like, that's illusory. But if I like sit at a table long enough and get that through play, then it's legitimate.
Right.
And what I want is a level 20 legitimate character.
But then what happens is
but I actually don't really care about the game we're in or the things that are happening or whether
it's like what you remember most
or do this. It's like
the games I remember the most. I don't remember what level I was. Like DTX, I don't know what level we finished at. Or Panathuk, I think we we're level 1.
I think we got the 2.
So that's what I'm saying. I was more invested in what was happening.
No, that's great.
But in AV, I'm like, we got to level 11. I know we did.
You got to level, right.
I know what the powers we had.
Let me further illustrate this, right?
Level 12,
because this is what was like driving me nuts until I clicked why you're like this, right? Because, all right, we're sitting now, we're playing AV, right? I'm like, Bob, you're level 9. It's going to be 3 weeks before you level, all right? I want you to tell me if you like it or dislike. I'm going to give you a series of numbers and levels. You tell me if you like that or not. 3 weeks until you level.
It's not too long.
2 weeks?
Yeah, that's probably about right.
What about 1 week if you level?
It might be too fast.
Is it too fast?
It might be.
Because this is what I'm asking.
Because Darker Winter was a little fast.
What if we're leveling twice the session? Is that fast enough?
That might be too fast. That's really too fast.
Okay, I respect that because it felt like
Darker Winter felt like it was too fast. And I feel like any longer than 3 weeks, I'm like, like, how are we doing anything to get to the next level? Like, what are we doing?
Right.
But
and
like Root, where there is no leveling, I get to explore space.
That is fair because if your goal in the game is to level up, then when you don't get a level up, you're like, I failed my goal. I failed my goal. I did not reach my goal.
Yeah, and in this case, that means I failed my Friday evening.
Right.
Yeah, I wanna, like you said, let the character breathe a little bit at that level, but then I want to get to the next breathing point, I guess.
See, the point I was going to go at, where if you keep accelerating how fast you gain levels, at a certain point you're like, well, what are we doing? Why aren't we playing Pathfinder? Right? Because in all the situation, it goes back to, but if that's the only thing you're looking forward to, what are we doing?
Right. But does that imply, well, a couple things. The problem with that it does have an implication of the inverse. But if you take 20 sessions to level, then that's even better.
No, that's not what I'm saying at all. My point is that's just the only thing Bob was looking forward to.
Well, no, I know. I'm just saying, but like leveling.
So I did want to beat Belcora. Like that. But I didn't care what level she was on.
I guess my thing would be this. Whether you level every session or you level every 4 sessions, forget it. Imagine if your game didn't even have leveling.
Right.
Would your game still be fun? If you made a level 5 character in some game and I go, hey, we're going to play this campaign, you will never level ever.
That campaign better be fun.
Well, no, I'm saying the only thing that can make that game fun is that if the sessions are fun, the characters are interesting, the storyline is gripping, right? The things and the actions that are happening in the narrative are compelling.
Yeah, I think if you can remove the want, like the mechanic of leveling, then I don't focus on the mechanic.
I don't think wanting to level is bad. I want to be very clear here.
I'm just saying I can focus my energy on doing something else in the campaign.
It's not either or. It's a mix. I love progression.
Yeah.
Right? Like STA, like Derek was making a very good point. He just picked something that I happened to just be like ridiculously in love with. Like, like STA is probably one of the few games I could play for a long time without progression. I love progression. I like seeing numbers go up. I like getting new stuff, new powers. I mean, I'm less about numbers and more about like new things because it changes by how I play the game.
You like don't mind going out.
I like going out because I get bored doing the same thing over again, right? So I like to mix up a little bit, right? So I think progression is important. My point is like you should have a good mix of all of these in a proper role playing game, right? Like you should have a world that's interesting and evocative and full of NPCs with stuff that you're involved with and other things that are happening and mysteries, right? You should be having fun with your friends at the table. You should have good snacks. You should be having exciting combat. You should be having exciting dialogues, and you should be leveling, right? But
Legend of the Five Rings is pretty good.
Oh, actually, L5R hits a lot of it.
I know. It does pretty good.
The only flaw, I would say there's 2 flaws of L5R for us. One, it's very specific. Fair. So if you're not feeling samurai Bushido drama, it's going to be a miss. Yeah. Right? And sometimes I'm feeling dwarf smashes, lizard man with a hammer, right? Yeah. And then the second piece is, and this is more me, like, listen, I have 3 kids, effectively 2 jobs. I have a very stressful life, okay? By the time it gets to Friday evening, sometimes
you don't want to play a game that literally has strife as a mechanic.
More politics.
That has emotional breakdown as part of its component.
So I'm kind of an introvert too. So I have to go to some pretty high level meetings, and it's like playing L5R where I'm like, all right, I have to master my composure and deal with my disadvantage, which happens to be like, I don't like talking to people. And what I'm doing is talking to people, right?
Yeah.
So it's like work, right? And then you show up to L5R and you're like, well, if I don't think through this carefully, Derek's going to ask me to kill myself because I fucked up the tea ceremony. Right? And,
them's the breaks,
now, all that being said, we still played it on Fridays and I loved it. I'm just saying long term, like I would probably have a nervous breakdown. Yeah,
I could see that.
Now Carsey had said something interesting in chat, and they said, to be fair, like this is more about that, OC trad sort of like, your character is the main story. It's about you. It's a very like selfish driven kind of style, and that is what is kind of popular and in vogue right now. And
I think it's fine if the heroes are protagonists.
Yeah, I think it's okay too. But like, I'm just saying, like. That is, I think, the reason why though people have play the way they play, and I just hear a lot of people on the Discord and on the internets, they seem to have like this problem of basically disengaged players like across the game. And I think that's because they're just legitimately disengaged.
Yeah, I think so.
They're just not engaging with the game.
Well, and to be fair, I'm not putting all that on the dungeon master.
No, but
I think it's just harder now, right? You have so many more distractions.
Sure.
Like it's one of the reasons. Every time we bitch about the Pathfinder books, there's always someone in chat who's just like, oh, just use digital tools. So it's like, well, we're kind of an analog group. And I think one of the reasons we are an analog group, more so now, other than just having been raised that way, more so now is just to minimize distractions. Like we have phones and laptops around us all day, iPads all day, right? So like Fridays, we're in the tech industry. Friday is one of the few days where like we sit in a room and there's not like a bunch of fucking gadgets around us, right? It's books and a fireplace and a big table,
Except for Bob.
Except for Bob.
The only reason was because it was Kineticist.
To be clear, I don't want Bob looking through a book either. So that's just going to be way worse.
Was my spells efficient? I was able to look them up fast and get them directly to you quickly.
True. So, anyways, but that was just something that kind of had been talked about a bit on the channel and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And just the idea of it, like being aware of that. So we got about half hour left.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you again to we had our two big tippers. We had Ben and GM Scott, and of course Save Versus. Thank you. Three big tippers. But we've also been sort of we've been doing a lot of 4E content.
Mm-hmm. We've been doing a lot of 4E content
on the channel. We just talked about encounter building. In 4E.
Great stream.
And there seems to be sort of a groundswelling of support and a belief for the game. But the thing that I think I'm thing about 4th edition is I think that there's this idea that, and this is what I guess I'm concerned about for a lot of people out there. It's like, it's a line from Fight Club, but I'm trying to remember what it was, but it's like,
I might be able to help with this one. I like Fight Club.
You remember the dialogue of Fight Club?
Do you remember the dialogue of Fight Club?
Do I remember the dialogue of Fight Club?
Yeah, the quote like that I'm trying to remember. But like he basically says like, he's like something about like, like if our mothers abandoned us, I'm wondering if a woman is the other thing that we need, or something like that. He's basically saying like,
I don't remember that line,
but
I remember that one.
Is that at the end where?
No, I think it's near the beginning. I think it's when Brad Pitt is talking to the narrator, basically saying like, you don't need to.
Is this on the airplane, the flight?
Maybe like it's like you just don't need to be worried about it. So it's like the thing about 4th edition is at the end of the day, this is actually a condemnation of it, right? Because it is D&D. Mm-hmm. It is a D20.
It is very much D&D.
It's a D20 based game. It has, for all people going, it's so radically different. No, not really. Not really. Especially if you're playing like the modern D20, like with Pathfinder 2 and stuff like that.
Yeah, if you're going to 3rd to 4th or PF2 back to 4th.
4th edition, 3rd edition, 4th edition, 5th edition, PF2, PF1. Yes. Compared to basic D&D, there's a lot.
Sure.
But you got gadgets and budgets and widgets and you got little powers and you do all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, it is still just a D20 generic fantasy game where you roll high on a D20, you roll low, nothing happens. And I see a lot of people are really excited about playing 4th edition. That's great, but I worry that they're going to be disappointed. Because I know that there's
I don't know what they're expecting.
In the Discord, I know there's a lot of like people who are like, we're going to go play 4th edition. There's this. We're starting campaigns. I think that's great. I do think it's great. But I think it's important to realize it is just a D20 game.
Yes. Yeah. Very, very much D20.
Like if you didn't like D20,
right?
Maybe you shouldn't go play D20.
Right.
Maybe you should try some of these other systems.
Great.
And
even
I like people trying other things.
Yeah.
Like,
even a game like 13th Age, which I love. It's got, in fact, I would say 13th Age at least kind of sort of has
it's more out there.
There's more out there. 4th edition's like, no, you got a skill list, Well, you got your feats, you got your class, you got your race. You know what I mean? Like it is D&D. This is for better, for worse.
This is classic. I don't even want to call it like the whole 2023 fanboy culture, right? When you're critical about something, people assume that you hate it.
Sure.
And when you're positive about something, people assume that that's the thing you're obsessed with, right? And I very much like 4E, don't get me wrong. It's got a lot of strong points to it. But like a lot of my, call it apologetics with 4E is mostly because it just got such a bad rap.
Right.
And I feel like it's an uphill battle just to get to the baseline of a conversation, right? Just to, okay, is this game good or not? Is it fun, right? And one of the things for, call it the advanced apologetics, right? For me, for 4E is, I very much just want to get to a point where it's just another version of D&D. It's just another edition.
Right. And I think it is. I think it is kind of getting there. And by the way, Frosty,
Frosty got
Frosty
you.
the man got the quote. Says the quote is from Fight Club. We're a generation of men raised by women. I'm wondering if another woman is really the answer we need. So replace that
That's
with
the quote.
we're a generation of players raised by D20.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if another D20 is the answer we need.
Dang, that's a pretty good quote.
I do like my D20,
So-
and I also like women. So
No, but I guess that again, this is my point. Like, I'm all for it, and it's even true with kind of some of this new SR OSR stuff, like people acting like, oh, if I get rid of this stuff, the game is totally different. It's still just D20 roll high.
well, also I mean, what are we trying to do? Like,
All I'm trying to say is,
do we want something that's different? I mean,
well, no, I mean, I guess that is kind of, I think, the valid point. Like, if you have been,
Look, I just want to play this because I think the monsters look really cool, and they have these roles that I want to learn more about.
I mean, that's a totally valid reason to play.
That's
It
why
is.
I want to
Yeah.
play this. I think this game is going to break my brain in terms of math.
yeah, probably.
And it's going to hurt.
I
And
think
you guys are gonna be like,
you'll be okay till Paragon.
and you guys are going to be like, Bob, I'm really getting tired of you like not remembering things. I'm like, okay, that's when we need to stop playing.
Paragon, like if we play this, Heroic's gonna be a blast. Everyone's gonna love it.
Sounds amazing.
And at some point, Derik and I will be sitting probably around this table or my table at home, going, we're about to go to Paragon. There's more math. It gets more complicated.
We gotta call it. We just gotta call it.
Like, should we just end on a high note? Like, yeah,
right.
Yeah, we're gonna have that
I think
conversation.
that's 100% going to happen.
Yeah. Josh Jurgensen says, are we talking 4E original books or the beautiful remaster with Fallen Lands, Forgotten Kingdoms? I hope you're trolling me. Because fuck Fallen
Now, that
Lands.
being said, Essentials did come out with some real gems.
But forget Heroes for Fallen Lands. That was a coward's answer to. You know what? Give me Magic Missile with an attack roll. I don't care. I like it. It's better. It's a better design thing. It works better with the game. The mage from Heroes, whatever, Fallen Lands, Forgotten Kills, with automatic Magic Missile. Fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that. If you're playing a My 4E game, you're making an attack roll with your Magic Missile. Okay. Anyways. But yeah, Roll for Combat says the game remains the same. And you know what?
It's always one in chat. But I think that as stupid as that commercial was and as wrong as it was,
it was totally right.
it is kind of the same.
Yeah.
It is a D20 game.
Yeah. It's just, it is just a D20 game. And so I just want to, one of the things, even for ourselves, like reality checking us, it's like, I've had my RC on the night's bedtime stand. I've been flipping rack back through the rule books. I've been doing all these 4E streams.
This came from my work desk.
Getting hyped about the, the encounter building rules, how fun it is. But at the same time, I got to remember, I'm like, dude, over the last, year and a half, you have been like, with, Pathfinder 2 and with Dark of Winter and with Pathfinder 2 and it's like, are you gonna be? I know what you're thinking is going to happen, but is it really going to happen? Like, is it really going to be this like, oh my God, it's like a breath of fresh air? I don't know. I'm concerned that I'm sort of.
My issue of PF2 wasn't rolling a D20 and adding a number to it.
True, but a lot of the progression based issues are in 4E.
I mean, it shares some of the same problems
and the complexity and the grind and there's no doubt about it. 4E combats are longer than Pathfinder 2 combats.
Pathfinder 2 combats?
Yeah.
4E combats are longer than Pathfinder 2 combats?
Yeah, in terms of duration and time. Well, I think so.
You think so?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't played.
Oh, it's true. I don't know. Let me know in chat what you guys think. I think so.
I feel like it'd be about the same.
I thought you had said on stream the other day that the rounds were shorter, but there was more rounds.
That is true. But
that's actually a good thing.
Yeah, so that's what I never heard about which one was actually longer.
So we always say this thing like long combats, and I want to clarify: a long fight isn't bad if everyone's engaged and having fun.
Absolutely.
The reason it's bad is if you're waiting 15 minutes to take your turn.
That I do not like. That's why I like the three of us when we played PF2. I was like, man, I felt like we were moving.
Right.
Which gets to the other point where like a lot of the reasons groups.
And 4E,
I don't want to be that guy.
5 people.
A lot of times fights are slow because people suck. They don't know what they're doing.
I'm part of that reason.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. You get to their turn. They have no idea what they're doing.
Right.
They have no idea what's going on.
Because they haven't been paying attention for the last 10 minutes.
Well, mine's
right?
more about using because the game's too complicated for me to wrap my head around sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't want to dog on you, Bob, but like you're talking about your kineticist, and as far as I can tell, you're using the same 3 powers the entire time.
Yeah.
So you had to look up that same 3 power each time, and each time it was confusing.
No, the kinesis was actually easy.
Well, you were saying that you had to look it up constantly. And that's why you had your tablet at the table.
Oh, that was just because we kept leveling up, and I was like, okay, are we like? I was just double checking the fresh produce, what my nut was doing this time, and like other than that, like, do I actually want to use Halo Splinters? Like that was
right. Okay, yeah. I mean, like, those are just kind of type of decisions you're making for you, right?
Yeah, so, I actually, like I said, I'm actually excited to play. I have a feeling that after a handful of sessions, when it gets a little bit more math intense, that's when I'm going to start breaking. But I think I'm going to have a lot of fun with the idea of the monsters and the encounters. I think I might actually really enjoy it.
Right.
And that's why I'm kind of excited for it.
But
I'm not doing it because of D20. I'm doing it for the encounters and the fun of
which is fair enough.
It just happens to be D20.
Right, which is fair enough. I just, I know that there are things that whenever I sit down to play a D20 game, third edition, immediately I start going like, God, I hate initiative.
Well, so part of this is I love you. You have a major character flaw.
Yes, well,
you are capable of talking yourself out of fucking anything.
True.
Oh,
anything.
That's true.
I'll never forget this. It was Pathfinder 2, actually. I saw Derik do something, have fun. His face lit up.
Which was this?
With joy. This was years ago
when
we first started playing PF2.
Okay.
Right? His face lit up with joy, right? The way Bob's face lights up, right? And then Derik went, like, why am I happy? I shouldn't be happy. Let me find a reason to not be happy. I don't like this as it was when you rejoined us, right?
Yeah.
So you saw this whole thing play out on your face. And then by the time you'd processed it, you had talking yourself out of the joy
Sure.
you legitimately just experienced to tell us why we shouldn't have joy.
That's true. But that's because fun, right? The fun and interesting are different.
Look, you can't really break me.
No, I know.
I'm either having fun or you're throwing a tavern in the middle of a 6th level dungeon.
So this is the distinction, right?
We know Bob's line now.
Bob.
Anytime we want to end a campaign, there's a tavern.
Yeah. Bob basically has no standards for fun, right? And then my standards.
He has one.
And my standards can't be a bar in a dungeon. My standards are just way too absurdly high.
Well, and when somehow accidentally they're met,
right,
you then increase them immediately.
I move the goalposts.
Yes.
How dare you reach that?
I move the goalposts. Yes, that's true. But again, and now to be fair, there's a lot of things that people are talking about with 4th edition that we didn't experience all those things and all the crazy things that a lot of people talk about. And in fact, a lot of things that people think was not great about 4th edition are actually some of the things I like the most about 4th edition. I like that all the classes use the same power structure. In fact, I'll go so far as to say one of the reasons I don't like the psionic power source is because it uses a different power system.
It gets a little weird.
And it's like, okay, again, because when I play 4th edition, everyone's like, but I want to be different. I want to be a snowflake. No, it's fine. We're all just going to use the same set of encounter powers and daily powers, so we're all on the same resource track, so we can all play together. It's fine. It's good. It really improves the playability of the game. So we don't have to get into but I know I'm really like these awkward situations.
I want to be a unique snowflake just like everyone else.
Right. Yeah. So again, I like that about 4th edition. A lot of people put that as a comment of a critique, but I really like it. But again, the thing about it is that I just want to make sure, because we're talking about the game a lot.
Yeah.
If you're really not happy with Pathfinder 2, or you're really not happy with D&D 5th edition, I don't know that 4th edition D&D is going to solve that
You're
problem.
probably not wrong.
So that's the only thing I want to make sure.
And I'm
not trying to say you just need to go play Root, or something, or Monster Hearts.
And that's
maybe
why,
you should.
And I'm not unhappy with PF2. I'm just kind of burnt out at the moment, which is why I think I just want to experience a certain thing of 4E. I'm okay with it, but I also want to play Fabulous Ultimate and other things too. I think that will help cure me.
And I think that's an important thing there.
Though if I start playing Warhammer soon, this could also hurt me if I'm taking
100%.
too much math.
If you're doing too much of the same thing. Well, too much tactical, right?
Yeah, too much tactical.
We'll sit here and we'll have these esoteric conversations about do we want to do more D20? I don't think of things that way. I think about what is my emotional or mental or whatever else need at the moment, right? And what's the best tool to kind of satisfy that, right?
Right.
And then I kind of work back from that, right? So we've been talking about 4E is potentially our next kind of game. Why am I interested in that? Okay, well, I want something that we're going to go a little bit deeper with, right? And specifically, we've played a lot of very condensed short games, right? AV was probably the longest one we played in a while.
Technically.
And that was, 10 levels. And
over two
years.
campaigns.
Yeah. We've played 6-7 sessions of Rue. We've played a handful of sessions of L5R. Hell, we got a little Traveler in there. Like, we've been all over the place, right? And I want something where I'm like I want to have stories. I want to be able to sit here and be like, Bob, do you remember the time 2 years ago where blah 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 blah? Because that's why I play this game, right? So I want something that's longer. That could really be many versions of D&D. What I'll say for 4E is, I actually enjoy Epic. I like 1 through 30. Mm-hmm. It's closer to the original game for me, and I think it does a better job of splitting out the ridiculousness of it. Right, like 10 through 20 in D&D is such an awkward time for me, and I think for the game in general, where you have an introduction of all these weird random powers that completely just change everything in the game. Right?
Literally, I mean, in D&D, right, one level. You're fighting ogres and giants and trolls, and you're throwing fireballs and you're swinging your sword. And then, everyone gains a level, and now you can travel through the planes.
Right.
And teleport across space and time and raise the dead.
You go from
that literally happens overnight. Yeah.
You went from throwing fireballs to now you're Doctor Who.
Right. Yeah. Overnight.
Yeah. You slept. You woke up like, oh, I get it. Shifting through alleys isn't that hard. Right? That's crazy, right? And so I appreciate the distinctions of Heroic, Paragon, and Epic, because those are natural breaks to end a campaign or to take a break. And then when you do play that, you're like, okay, guys, this is a different tier, right? So
I could see us taking a break and then and going, okay, that's a good breaking point. We had fun. Let's go cleanse the palate.
Yeah,
and
100%.
then come back and grind a little more.
I like Ben. He says, that's how I do it. What do I want to play story-wise? Then I find a game to fit that need. Then I do that 5 times at once.
It's pretty good.
I mean, listen, the goal is to be Ben when we grow up.
I mean, I hope one day I can too.
Actually, I think Dan, I think you guys actually like Burning Wheel, don't you?
What's that?
You guys like Burning Wheel, don't you?
I like it. I like Burning Wheel as much as anything else. I mean, I own Burning Wheel First Edition. I own Burning Wheel Gold Edition. I own Burning Sands, Burning Empires. I own pretty much every Luke Crane game, including Free Market. So I mean, in terms of being a Burning Wheel fan, I'm about as big of a Burning Wheel fan as you can. But that just because you're a huge Burning Wheel fan does not mean that you ever have played or will play Burning Wheel.
Correct. Because in fact, most Burning Wheel fans never actually play Burning Wheel. In fact, most Burning Wheel fans would say one does not play Burning Wheel. Because what does that mean?
Right. It's like Eve online.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Which, by the way, I've been winning for many years now.
Right. You've been winning for a very long time.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Exactly. Kaz and I are crushing it.
Right. You know that meme, or oh shit, I just lost the game. That was created by Burning Wheel.
Wait, which one lost the game?
You ever see that thing, The Game? You never saw that? That was never a thing that you think? Where it's like if somebody mentioned the game, if you were thinking about the game,
yes.
you lost it. Like
I know.
You've been winning the game for 5 years now, and I just made you lose the game. But that originated with Burning Wheel.
I remember that was in high school.
Right.
The game.
I'm joking, of course, but
I remember that stupid thing that they would say to each other.
We haven't played Burning Wheel, but we have played Mouse Guard. We played Torchbearer.
Torchbearer.
Yeah. Torchbearer is great because it's like our sweetheart. Like, we love Torchbearer. That is the game that we will always steal from and never play seriously.
Yeah. We do have that question then about season 3.
Sign-ups for season 3. We're going to have a big marketing campaign with a lot of information coming out here very early in the year. I want to say, if you're not a member of the patrons, sign-ups is going to be in the March timeframe for a launch of April.
Right.
Yep. So if you are a member, then you'll get early signups.
And for season 2, you had to be a $10 champion tier member a month, which also got you some tickets that you could use for various merch items. And if you gain enough of those, you can also buy things inside of the game and little fun tchotchkes and little bonus picks. So champion's a pretty cool tier. But
we started to roll those out in season 2. That'll probably be better in season 3.
Right, but our process is always the same, right? Like, we're trying to create a unique experience. Mm-hmm. Every year, every season, that's going to be different, so that people don't get bored. In fact, realistically, I don't know how much, I don't know that we could do 5 seasons of Northern Reaches with Pathfinder 2. I think at a certain point, you've drained that well. Yeah. You've run out of things to do. So part of the challenge for us is, to try to allow people to experience the game, but then to make each season better than the last, or at the very least,
take what we learned,
different than the last, right? Sometimes things are, we try things, and they don't work. I mean, that's part of growth, right? Is trying things that don't work.
Yeah.
And so
we monitor it every year, and we have conversations. Hey, is Pathfinder strong?
Right. We have we have a bunch of players, but we have like 40 or 50 players who are really active. We get their feedback and we try to iterate on that to try to make the best gun. Or best gun, the best fun, the most fun that we can out of the game, to try to create that kind of experience. And again, we're also trying to kind of tailor an experience. One of the things that you'll quickly learn about, like for example, if you ask somebody, it's from the movie War Games with Matthew Broderick, but it's like,
is that the computer one?
Yeah.
I love that game.
It's like if you ask somebody like, what do they want to be able to do? And it's like, well, I want to be able to. I want to be able to win every time. And it's like, okay, well, do you still play tic-tac-toe? No. Why? Because it's a stupid game. Why? Because it's a draw every time, right? Like there's no play to it. So a lot of times when you give people what they actually are asking for, they end up going, awesome, now I have everything I ever wanted. And then they quickly discover they actually don't want to play the game.
I totally agree with that. You have to give them sort of restrictions.
There's fun in fighting through those restrictions. One of the reasons why I'm now less, I don't want to say I'm anti-free archetype, but I'm less... I'm pretty neutral on it.
You and I went
right.
We 180. Flipped hard.
Yeah, I was originally like, why would you ever play Pathfinder 2 without free archetype?
And they were like, yeah, I'll probably never use that again.
Yeah, I'm probably not going to use that again. Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Nerdum is saying, so yes, on having at least night level to participate. No, you have to be at least champion level.
Champion
to participate.
Yes. Season 1 was champion.
Season 1 was knight and champion.
I'm sorry. Season 1 was knight. Season 2 was champion. Season 3 will be champion.
Yep.
Also, apparently, I just made a shitload of people lose the game.
Yes. Apparently,
that is fantastic. So that is fantastic. But my girlfriend banned me from going home for another hour, so I hope this stream lasts a bit longer. All right, Boothbey. Well, I don't know.
I asked Boothbey, what does he want to talk about?
This will be the Boothbey hour now.
Yeah, it'll be the Boothbey hour. So, but yeah, so Nerdrum, or for anybody, champion tier, and maybe sign up like next year if I mean, I'd love to see you in the patron now, but if you want to wait for next season,
if finances are an issue or something like that, then you just join when you can, and the season runs all the time. Like it's running, starting sometime in early second quarter or something like that.
It should be starting right after April this year.
Yeah. But then it's going to run till the end of the year. Now we don't know how that's going to be structured exactly, but it's going to be running all year long, just like it's did this year.
Yeah. So, KC says, every time I've read a guide for a video game, I immediately regret it and lose interest. It's interesting that he says that because I've seen so many people in my life and, or like even especially younger people in my life that I know, but even, people our age. And like the way that people play video games now, like they'll be playing Baldur's Gate 3 and they've got like the walkthrough up on the other monitor.
Oh, jeez. What's even the point? What are you doing?
Oh, I know it happens. I don't know. I play Baldur's Gate with my brother.
Okay.
Now, he's ahead of me, so he kind of guides me, but he lets me do what I want to do.
That's
and when I get stuck, I'm kind of like, well, don't we have to do this? He goes, yeah, we have to actually go back this way. And, oh, okay, let's do that. So he kind of like guides me through
But it's really interesting to me because and then I'll see
I used
people
to
who
play
go,
Pokemon that
well, no,
way.
I need to know ahead what happens if I go down this arc of the story.
Yeah, they don't want to make a
so
bad
that I
choice.
can choose the right one.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting to me because isn't the fun of the game making the choice, not knowing what's going to happen?
You would think.
I would think.
That's why I enjoy it.
But again, this is why I don't understand.
There's a reason. There's a frustration level of getting stuck or doing nothing or doing the wrong thing, especially getting stuck, I think.
Well, what do you mean by that?
So when I used to play Pokemon on like the Game Boy, I used to have the walkthrough with me, and I actually had a lot of fun doing that. Like, okay, I'm sort of in a place where I don't really know what to do. I'll read the walkthrough, see where I'm supposed to go, or do what I need to do, and then I'll go do that. Because I actually found more frustration in being stuck or lost or not. But those games didn't have like open world.
Yeah, I mean that's reasonable.
There's a path that you're supposed to sort of go.
I kind of put that on the fault of the game.
Oh yeah, I don't disagree. But that's what I would do. I'd be like, oh,
now I don't think that's the case in BG3. Like we're talking more like
BG3 is much more
choices.
open world. And
yeah,
you should be doing whatever you want.
Right.
Like it is.
That's part of the fun, right? Like I don't want to know what my choice is going to do, and I don't want to know what anyone else's choice is going to do until I see it happen in front of me.
Right.
Like I said during our last stream, we were talking about my growth. I like blew up that guy by accident because I threw an alchemist fire in this mushroom thing, and I don't know. You might know this part because you did BG. Have you been still playing BG3 or no?
I'm so far behind.
Okay, so
I'm like
never mind.
on the first.
Well, I accidentally killed this guy, and my brother and my sort of my brother-in-law were kind of like, "What did you do? Why did you do that?" And I was like, "I thought I was supposed to clear this stuff out." He goes, "There's a guy in there." I'm like, "Well, I didn't know that." And like, well, now he's dead. And I was like, "Does that matter?" And Rory was like, well, in the one I played, he's alive, so there's just things you have to do. So I guess that's not going to happen. But that's all it was. It's like, I guess that's changed the narrative now.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I think it's great.
Like,
That's your
great.
game.
Yeah, it's my game now. That guy's dead.
Hell, that's how D&D should be. That's how AP should be.
That is very true.
That is how it should be.
I mean, again, we've talked about this before, but when we played Root, I didn't know what was going to happen with your brother.
The second the game started, you didn't know what was going to happen because just instantly went in a different direction.
Instantly, completely 180, like from everything that I would have expected. But every time there was a session, I was always like, and again, like I think there's a tremendous fun in. I watched a great video. I need to find it and link it. But there's just a great fun of being at the table as a game master and being just as in it as the players. You know what I mean?
100%.
Like
that's why I love emergent gameplay.
Yeah, we're just like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know where. There's no place you need to go. There's no place you're supposed to go. And I'm like, what crazy direction are these players going to take the game? And I think for me as a game master, that's how I feel like there was this. We were talking about this idea of like player meta currency and versus like the GM meta currency, and it's like, yeah, but like then you're getting into this world where it's a binary. Like I'm telling a story, you're telling a story. I'm telling a story, you're telling a story. I like it better when it's just kind of all.
It's interesting that you were just talking
together
about Northern Reaches where we have to put limitations on it, but then at the same time you're saying how good it is to like not have any limitations in the world or in how you play.
Well, no,
limitations within the character development.
You have limitations because you can murder your brother.
Well, that's consequences,
but they'll
right?
have consequences.
Yeah.
It's not just like you can't just literally.
But what I'm
do
saying
anything.
is some people don't like that sandbox because they feel like when there's too many options, you actually are. Was it analysis paralysis? They're sort of stuck. They actually need linear progression. Like I need to go there and do the thing because that's what I'm supposed to do. That will help me do what I want to do.
Yeah, it's interesting seeing how our hobby has morphed over particularly the last 2 decades because you get a lot more of that. Kind of like what we're talking about here in chat and what we were talking about, right? Like you get a lot more people approaching APs from the where's the wiki strategy guide, right? I mean, isn't there a classic line? Is it from you, Bob? Who like you asked Derik for the adventure for Rise of the Rulers because you were quote concerned about messing it up?
No.
Was that wasn't you? Who was that?
No.
Bob just used to say that playing it made him nervous
because you could.
He was worried that he wasn't going to do what you're supposed to do.
And I would purposely not watch anything or read anything because I didn't want to ruin the ending. Right. And so this idea like that I could ruin the ending of it was not
that
appealing.
Entire concept is just so like weird.
We were supposed to get to do this thing, and there was this sort of joke that since we died, like you were like, oh, maybe there's this idea that now the giants are coming down to Sandpoint and it's sort of in it, but whatever. But the idea is like that wasn't technically supposed to happen.
Right. So you feel like you're I messed it up.
Yeah,
that's so weird.
So now, like I think I've grown a little bit since then.
Let me ask you something.
At the beginning, that's what was happening.
Do you view your life that way? You as Bob. Are you worried that you, Bob, has screwed up your ending? And hopefully a very long time from now?
With clouds of cancerous resin dust?
Well, I guess if I was concerned about that, I would be like really like strict on my
I don't want to
sugar
give you more
intake.
anxiety in case you haven't thought about that. My point is, that's kind of how I've always viewed role-playing games the same way.
Yeah.
Whereas like, kind of like life, where it's just like, well, I don't know what's supposed to happen. I'm just going to try to make what I want happen.
Well, and that's my problem. I view a lot of my games as video games.
I think it's a disservice to our hobby.
I don't disagree with you, and that's why I think I have a lot of fun with certain ones, and then there's other ones where I'm like, I need to find the finish. I need to find the ending. I need to finish Case of Chaos. I need to finish beat Belcora and AV. I need to do these things because that's the ending.
But that's
of the story.
like saying I need to finish Bob.
I mean, eventually, there is a finish to Bob eventually.
The difference is that that ending in the Belcora is already written. It's there. It's in a book somewhere. I mean, like in Root, that it doesn't exist because there's nothing.
And I had a ton of fun playing Root
because you felt free.
Right
because you're like I can't mess up the story.
Actually, that's a good point.
There's no story to mess up.
Did you feel free in RA? Because RA is effectively there's no point.
No, because
you cannot.
I don't know if I did.
Anyone who does is full of shit.
Okay.
Well,
right, okay.
I did have this feeling that I had to get to the dungeon that we didn't get to.
But you loved it, and we didn't even get to the dungeon.
Yes, and I actually think you're actually right with the freeing part because when there's an AP and they introduce Belcora early on, and they go, "She's the big baddie," I'm like, "Well, I need to get to her." there's a thing that I'm supposed to do. But in Root, there was no really thing. We could do whatever.
Broken them, actually. I don't know.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed it. But I think once you put the parameters in place that there's a thing that I got to do, I got to kind of do it. So.
Yeah, and again, I'm not casting any dispersions upon people who want to sit there and play with their wiki. I'm simply saying that is strange to me.
Yeah, I agree.
And I'm out the video game industry. I don't play video games anymore. It's actually kind of ironic. I could see there being, I could actually see this being a chicken and the egg scenario, right? Where games were this complicated, like when I played them, and then the internet happened, right? And people started posting guides. There was always like strategy guides, but not as ubiquitous, right?
Oh, actually.
And then now game designers were like, well, I better make this shit really hard to find because people are just gonna have strategy guides. So then they made the shit really hard to find, which meant that now people were even more likely to just sit there with the strategy guide.
They had to.
Because they don't like they had to. Then the game designer said, okay, we're gonna make this completely obscure, totally unfindable, because it's almost like you're designing it with the knowledge in mind the player is going to be using the strategy guide.
So Cephal Zero Dog in chat.
Yes, Cephal Dog
mentioned, I think a lot of modern games have bad design, which is creating the strategy wiki culture. It's really easy to miss content or waste hours of your day.
That's exactly what I was talking about. Yeah. When I was doing it in Pokemon, because I was like, I got stuck and I don't want to waste time.
Well, and what Derik's saying, and I think it's the same thing here, strategy wiki culture, right? Derek's like, I'm a game designer. Well, I have to deal with the internet today. So I got to make this shit convoluted as fuck.
Well, or you're going to run into the problem where you're going to run into like almost like the PF1 problem, AP problem, where you're like, well, I designed a game and did so almost negligently, willfully ignorant that the internet exists. And then everyone's saying, your game's too easy. I just pulled up the strategy guide. I beat it right away. And it's like,
I don't know how I'd feel about that. I'd be like, that's a you problem.
And I would be like, oh,
it is.
I'd be like, oh, sorry. And he's like, you should have made it really impossible to play. That way I would have felt warranted to use the strategy guide. Like it's very strange to me.
That's weird.
Because I mean, I'm not even gonna lie to you. I was watching Larry play something. Okay,
Larry's a buddy of ours.
Larry's a buddy of ours. He lived with us and he likes video games. And I was watching him play and he had his laptop and he was just, going through that. And he was doing something. And I remember watching him being like, okay, fair. There is no fucking way that any human being would have ever done that.
Oh, there's absolutely convoluted shit.
Or figured that out. Maybe if you played the game 150 times.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe, start to finish. But, or I don't know, literally went around and pushed A on every single section of the entire level of every single thing. I go, at a certain point, why is that?
To be fair,
hidden.
That's existed forever because you used to have a subscription to Nintendo Power to beat Nintendo games. Like Legend of Zelda 2.
The Pokemon game was Nintendo, and you had to find something in a bush you never knew you had to find.
100%. They would put this shit in there and then immediately put in their magazine.
You didn't have to.
That's the difference. And I think that's the difference.
Is that Zelda 2 you had to. Zelda 2, the last dungeon is hidden in a forest. You get to chop down every fucking tree to find it. It's fucking just impossible. Now, I did it. I literally chopped down every tree. It took a fucking Saturday, which is what you could do as a kid. Today, I had to throw the fucking thing away.
Yeah. So I'm one of my favorite memories I was probably like 15 or 16. I was, obviously live at home, and my dad and I have always bonded a little bit over like World War II and stuff like that. Like we watched Band of Brothers and stuff like that was coming out when I was in high school. And we used to watch that and all that other stuff. And we watch World War II movies and the Pacific. But a game came out, very famous game, called Medal of Honor Allied Assault.
Oh, it's the sniper level.
It is the sniper level. It is a first-person shooter game, but it's like World War II. And it's very famous for like its second or third mission, which is Normandy invasion. Okay. And it's like you get to play out like Saving Private Ryan. And it's just great and it's really awesome and amazing. And I played through this level. My dad would sit there and watch me play it. Nowadays the graphics probably look like shit, but at the time it was like, oh wow, it's like watching World War II happen. I feel like I'm really there. So there's a level later on, you're inside France or whatever like that, and you're fighting your way through this level, and there's just like German snipers everywhere, and you basically, walk 20 feet, you get sniped. Try to figure out where it came from. Walk 20 feet. You were wrong. Get sniped again. Walk 20 feet. Okay, I found it. And so then it's almost like one of those movies where like somebody can see the future so many times. That they become,
Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah, like Live, Die, Repeat or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Right, where you just have played it so many times, you're like now like it's like you're prescient.
That's literally what you did.
And that is literally what I did. I probably died.
Tom Cruise that shit.
I Tom Cruised it. I probably died, I don't know, 150 times or something. And I was just sitting there for the whole day to beat this level.
It was a puzzle that you were slowly and painfully dismantling.
And then I remember after the game was finished, and I loved it, and I was reading this review, and the person was like, the game would be perfect, except for the sniper level, which completely ruins the game because it's so hard to beat. And I was like, wow, but I beat it. And like by chopping down every tree in the forest. Yeah. And I felt pretty fucking good about it.
I think I would hate it.
Right. And I think you would too.
I did not feel good about chopping every tree down in the forest.
Yeah, I think I would hate that. I think I would have been like, I would have died like 4 or 5 times. Like, this game sucks. And I probably never play it again.
Yeah.
I will say, Ben, yes, when Derik first brought up video game guides, I was thinking like the literal instruction manual. And my thought went to both the original Legend of Zelda, which was so poorly translated, it didn't help at all. So it just added to the mystery. And the Final Fantasy guide, which just kind of like made me want to play the game more.
Yeah.
But that was back when like games came with
I remember I
things.
started playing Final Fantasy VII just on my own. And I didn't really get anywhere because I was getting lost and not doing it right or whatever. And I stopped playing. And then years later, I was able to get it when I was in Italy on my computer. And I played on my computer with the internet there. And I got a strategy guide to help me get through it. And it was a lot of fun. And I was able to beat the game.
It's so funny because I mean, very famously, right? Like when I played Final Fantasy VIII, right, right, I very quickly got the Diablos Guardian Force, which lets you learn encounter none, so you no longer have random encounters. And since in that game, the monsters, the bosses, not the monsters, the bosses are tied to your level, so that they're always appropriately hard. But I never had random encounters.
So all the bosses
so I never leveled up. So like my characters were like level 10. And so I just ran through the adventure or ran through the game. And I, would ever have to click on, talk to the people I had to talk to. I explored nothing. I did nothing. Got through the story. Got to the end. Fought the final boss. I was like level 15. Beat Ultimacia. Moved on.
Don't follow no time warp.
And like it's so funny too. Is like that is so. Like people are like, oh, no, you needed to get every hidden thing in the game, or otherwise you didn't beat it. Not really. And I saw that Queen's Anne Revenge said, I wouldn't critique a designer for that. For me, a strategy guide is handy for those of us who don't have 40 hours a week to spend. But my counter is, why make the game require 40 hours a week to spend? Why not make the game be like, yeah, a normal human being with an average amount of time on their hands could sit down and play this game and play through it. And and then it's like, okay, well, but what about people who want to go deeper? Fair, but then you're making it so abstract that they have to use a strategy guide to get to it. So what are you really doing there?
Right.
I don't get it. Anyways,
I quit when it gets too hard. I don't have time. I don't have time for that BS.
I quit when I get bored.
There are many games. They're like Bob and I were talking about books.
You quit when you have a negative emotion.
Yeah. No, because I don't.
I'm hungry. I'm done.
Hungry. No, but like life's too short. There's a million other things I could be doing. That's million fair. Other games.
That's honest.
And and this is something that Bob and I were talking about. Like I was like telling Bob, I was like, you have no idea how many books I have bought, not just like rented from the library or got from but bought a book, sat down, opened it up, read half the first chapter. And been like,
same way.
I'm done.
I absolutely.
You know how many books come out every
I judge books by their cover.
You know how many books come out every day? I'm never going to get through all of them. Yeah, I don't have time to waste. And Bob's like, I can't do it. I spent money on this. I got to listen to it to the end.
Bob, I used to be a member of a book club. They would send me fantasy and science books all the time. And I'd be like, this looks like shit. I'm never reading that.
So Audible has this really great thing, though. If you don't like it, you can return it on Audible and get your money back. So I did. There was two.
Could you do that, knowing that?
I did. I've done it.
Oh, you've done it.
There was one book that was so bad. I was like, I don't even know what I thought this was going to be. I read the first chapter.
Well, now you'll never know because you're never going to beat it.
I deleted.
You're not strong enough.
I deleted it and got my money back.
Right
now, if I couldn't get my money back, I might dabble on it over time, trying to figure out if I could get through it.
Yeah.
But most of the time, I look for recommendations and I try to get through the book, and then that way I can actually give it an honest, did I like it or not? Like there are several books that have 3-part series, and I won't go to book 2 because I was like, I really didn't like book 1. But usually I try to get through the book.
Yeah. Again,
I try to get
there's got to be enough there for me to, and again, I have no problem going, yeah, this trilogy ain't gonna happen. Like it's fine.
I mean, I made it through the Icewind Dale by your recommendation. It was awesome.
TV shows, I'm the same way. I just go, nah. They're like, but it gets so much better season 4. That's like telling me your build comes on at level 15. Like,
I mean,
the first 14 levels are pretty crap. You're just casting electric arc over and over again. But at level 15, okay, you are going to be about 2.5% better than other characters who were just randomly made.
I've watched a handful of shows that people have said like the first 2 episodes were rough, and if you got through the first 2 episodes, you really like the series. And I have watched it and go, I didn't really like the first 2 episodes. Then it clicked at episode 3.
Well,
and I was like, this show was great.
And then I try to be somewhat. Beginnings are tough.
Yeah,
beginnings are hard. It's a delicate time.
It is a delicate time. Let's see. So let's take a look. So ironically,
see, Ayla, I did that one time, and before,
but they don't want us to have a new night.
I couldn't refund it fast enough. I went like an hour over the refund limit, and I was so ticked. Now I own a couple games that I could not return. I'm never going to play again.
So I will say one thing I have started doing, because I used to not do this, because I was just that. I don't know. I didn't care.
Mm-hmm.
If I play a Steam game and I'm absolutely done with that shit before 2 hours, I will go through the Steam refund.
Yeah, my brother does it a lot.
Yes.
Because he plays a lot of different games.
That's a big step for you.
It is a big step. I mean, like, I started doing it like the past 12 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, this is part
Character growth.
like the new leaf.
Like 41. And you know what? I'm going to start getting refunds on these things.
Yeah, I mean... but some of these games, like the tutorial, takes longer than the dang refund period.
I can't. I can't get through if the game starts with a 20-minute cutscene, that game is never going to get played. Like I will be like 5 minutes. Like it's like a meeting, like a work meeting. What is it like? If the person doesn't show up in 10 minutes,
I'm so torn because
like for me, if the game doesn't start, it's like, well, the game started. No, that's not the game. I'm just watching a movie. If I can't start pushing buttons and doing things within like the first 5 minutes of the game, I'm like, I'm out. I'm out.
And that's different for everybody.
Generally,
I'm not. That is again. People of the internet, that is not me trying to say that is what you need to do. I am saying that is my weird, unique take on things.
I generally agree with that, but every now and then, it just depends if it's engaging, right? For example, like, I don't know. I don't think I could ever skip, like, the Xenogears opening cinema.
Sure, but that's also very quick.
I mean, it's not instant.
No, but it's like
it's minutes.
It's like 5-6 minutes. I can give Xenogears its cinematic opening. That's fine.
Okay.
But like, 17 hours of cutscene Xenosaga? No.
Well, Sean,
no.
That's why we just printed it to DVD and just watched it.
Right, but at least then you've
because we got rid of the game.
You got rid of the game.
Yeah,
so at least we've
100%.
established.
No, we were on the same page.
It's just a movie. Okay.
I think Larry liked playing the game.
Yes.
I don't even remember the game. But
I remember is that like there was some monster in the first hallway that gave the most AP or something like that, and so Larry would grind Cosmos to get like every single ability in the game. But when you're really low level, it takes forever. But it's arguably the most efficient way to do it. Anyways,
Sean said that the Metal Gear Solid 5 had a 1.5-hour cutscene to start off. That sounds outrageous.
Yeah, I think that's played that game.
That's a movie.
Yeah, I can't do that.
That's the one in Afghanistan, right? Was the cutscene really that long? I don't know how I got through that. I actually like that game.
Honestly, it could be 15 minutes, and it's just not going to happen.
It should just be like 5 minutes, and if there is one, and then like show me how to do my moves.
I was watching,
and then maybe something else.
When my buddy lived with me, I was watching him play God of War. One of the gods of war or whatever. Mm. It's like God of War 5, God of War 2 or something is what it is. Like it's
God of War 4, God of War.
Yeah. So anyways, but like I remember there's, I'm like, oh yeah, it's Kratos.
Unless it was a new one, in which case it is God of War 2, God of War 5.
Okay. But he was like, no, I don't, because I think that's too new. But he's like, oh yeah, I'm like, oh Kratos, and I sit down, I'm watching it, and like it's him talking with. He's got a guy on his belt that is a head, and he's talking with some other gods, and they're all just talking about it, and like. It's like really, there's the dialogue's going, and there's no buttons to push. It's just a cut scene, but it's not like full, it's not full video. And I was like, why aren't you? I hate them, but shouldn't you be quick time eventing killing somebody right now? Like, what are we doing here? Is that why you're playing God of War?
No plot, no exposition.
You're playing God of War for the story. Like 5 seconds ago, you hurled your axes into somebody with chains and then wiggled them back and forth on the QuickTime event, ripped them in half. You only have to do that 17 more times to kill them. Like, what are we doing? I hate everything.
You hate everything. You enjoy nothing.
I enjoy nothing.
One thing that I like about God of War, one of my favorite cinematic camera shots is the single shot.
What's the single shot?
That's where they never cut the camera.
Oh, yeah.
And God of War does that.
Oh, yeah.
It's actually really cool.
Yeah, they move it around like throughout the scene, but they never cut it. It's kind of it's a thing of theirs.
No commentary in the game. I'm just saying I love that kind of like shooting style.
Yeah.
So there's a couple like you'll typically see like episodes of it. There's a good one in Wheel Time actually. I think it's episode 1 when the Trollocs attack. That clip with Matt. that's like a one shot. And it's awesome because like it does such a great job of like conveying like the energy and panic of the scene, right? But yeah, you'll see like a lot of like shows nowadays are constantly cutting back and forth between these action sequences, which just looks terrible versus just like watching the scene.
There's a movie I think it's Chris Hemsworth where he plays like called Extractor or something where he has to save a kid that's been like kidnapped or something. And they do a lot of those one long cuts where I'm like, oh man, because you have to design that scene so well to be able to know where the camera's gonna like shift and pivot in.
That's one reason I appreciate it because the work that goes into it is like, I mean, you fuck up, you're not just editing that. You can't just cut that.
So, bring it back. Let's do it again.
There's a World War I movie that is one shot.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
the whole movie. So it's like a real time kind of movie.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow.
It's pretty crazy. And Sean says it.
Oh, Extraction 1 and 2. Yeah.
1917. It's an entire film. Yeah. But yeah, so I saw some
1917.
Yeah, everyone's saying it. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that.
Everyone's seen this.
Yeah, it's a good movie. Someone asked a question like, are there any RPGs like that like first couple of sessions?
Sater says it's not one shot. It's just done to look like that.
No, it is. Obviously, they did not literally film for 2 hours and then say that was our whole movie. Done. Everybody go home. The movie's done.
Oh,
turns out they're like Derik. They also hated editing. So, all right, guys, one shot. Get it right, perfect.
We're doing it.
That's
right.
it.
Like how long?
Can't afford more film.
Right. How long does shoot take? It took 8 months. We had to do it that many times before we could get it right. No, it's just they use a little bit of CGI and magic to make it look like that. But someone asked like, is there an RPG like that where it's like, you don't. This
slow
actually,
start.
You know what I'm actually going to say? My opinion, like all of them. It's one of the reasons why I'm against one shots.
Yeah.
Because I feel like so many role playing games, unless it's like, I don't know, Lasers and Feelings, which literally could fit on the back of an envelope.
Yeah. Danger Patrol.
A Danger Patrol. So so many of these games need to breathe, and people get in there and you need to have time to like learn how the mechanics work and why these mechanics produce the interesting effects that they produce and why the mechanics. Like to appreciate the beauty of it, right? Whereas like if you just get in there and play it one time and go, yeah, I played that game, and it's like,
yeah, I don't know many games that you could feel like you played the game.
Yeah, like I don't feel like you really got a good chance to get into the game
earlier. Like you need like 300 hours to like. There's like a thing. Someone said it, but I think it was
that's a lot of time to spend. But.
Well, he was like, that's like 15 hours a level in D&D.
Oh, I think you're saying that most games are play tested for 300 hours.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
But I was thinking like 300 hours, like. Of any game, man.
Well, also, if you're designing an RPG, you have this, what is absolutely the correct thing to do, and it fucks you from the beginning, which is if I had, let's say, 500 hours of playtesting time available to me from my various playtesting groups, I would absolutely take like 400 of those hours and focus them on the first like 5 levels of the game.
Oh, 100, yeah.
Because that's where everyone,
that's what everyone does, and that's why high level always sucks.
And that's why high level always sucks, right? Because people just run out of things, to...
What is Ben saying? Have you all seen Extraction from the Demon F'd Cleveland, 1996 yet? What the heck is that?
No idea.
Is that a movie?
I don't know.
Is that a thing?
I have no idea.
Ben, what is that? Are you just saying random words?
Ben's gone without a game too long.
I was like, I can't tell this.
It's been nearly 12 hours since he's rolled a dice.
Right.
It's a game about Cleveland?
Yeah, so anyways.
I must look it up.
Kind of all over the place tonight, but that's all right. We started off strong. It was good.
Yeah, it was a nightlife. We said that we were respond to chat.
The video chat did say that.
We got through all of our topics, right?
We did get through all of our topics. Yeah. I mean, Beowulf specifically was like regarding homebrew. Like, is there any systems or is there any ideas that you really like to put in? And the answer for me on that is clocks. Now, clocks itself isn't like really a system or a mechanic. In fact, actually, there is something to be said about that. One of the things that I really like about
what is a mechanic?
One of the reasons I like Forged in the Dark games, like Blaze in the Dark, is because you might say, oh, because they use clocks. But I use clocks in Pathfinder too.
Oh, it was a 2022 nominee for the Ennies.
Oh, well, no.
I mean, it looks weird, but it's a thing.
It does says Extraction from Demon Fucked Cleveland, 1996.
Wow. Okay. What the fuck happened in Cleveland in 1996?
Apparently demon fucking.
Was that the year
July
of the tornado?
1974, an occult working performed by Redacted successfully creates a rift between worlds and summons the Demon Queen Redacted.
Okay.
Ushering hell on earth scenario encompasses the metro area
just
of Cleveland,
dunk
Ohio.
on Cleveland. Okay.
All right, well.
That's fair.
But what I was going to say is that,
Clocks. System. What's a mechanic?
People go, oh, I love clocks. I'm going to put them in my Pathfinder 2 thing. Okay, that's fine. But the thing is, because a clock ultimately is just a way, in my opinion, to communicate information, hopefully with your table. But even as a GM, if you want to keep them secret, which I don't think you should, but if you did, it's a way for you to understand this thing is that much complete. But where I really like clocks, and this is an example of why I feel like homebrew, this is actually a good example of where homebrew I think falls short. You could take the clock concept and you can add it to your 5e or Pathfinder 2 game, and I think you'll get some good mileage out of it. But Blaze in the Dark has playbooks that have abilities that specifically work with clocks. And interface with clocks. It would be like if someone added clocks to their Pathfinder 2 game because they think they're really cool, and then they went through and they modified all the skill feats and the class feats to work with clocks, right? And say, oh, like,
that'd be a really good hack,
right? Like
that'd be amazing. Well, skill feats would have a point.
And that is that to me is like the level of distinction between somebody making a quick hack or homebrew and not really thinking about the implications of it.
That's right.
Versus being like, no, this is a complete integrated system.
Yeah.
And thinking through, how do I make this compelling? How do I make this interesting? How do I make this fun and still interact with the clocks? It's not just a simple matter of going, oh, clocks, and sticking into a game. You need to have ways to interact with that mechanic. You have to have meaningful ways to do that. And a lot of people, this is like my problem with Lancer. I'm not saying it's a bad game. People might really, really like it. But my problem with Lancer is they basically are like, we have like 2 sets of rules.
Yeah,
you know,
because
it's almost like you have 2 different character sheets. Here's your character sheet for when you're, not in combat, and here's your character sheet for when you are in combat. Now, someone did make out a great point, which I think is awesome. Not in chat, but this is a while ago. They said, "Well, in Lancer, you are in a mech in combat," and I said that is actually totally awesome.
That's super valid
because that is super valid. That you're
if you're not doing combat, or I don't know enough about Lancer, like if there's a way for you to punch, but like. If your combat is traditionally in a mech, then I'm actually kind of behind that.
Right. So at that point, you're like, oh, it is.
You
kind
are
of like
technically 2 different people.
Yeah, it's a completely different system.
Yeah. Right.
You're like, the concerns and mechanics that I need for my mech with its heat sinks and its armor and its LRM 20s is very different than like when I'm like trying to buck for promotion with the clan magistrate, or the chief of my division or whatever like that, or scrounging up enough creds to get that repair on that mech, something like that. Like, so I will give it that credit. Yeah. But for me, as a game purpose, I like it.
It can be jarring.
It can be jarring, And so we had that problem with Legend of the Five Rings, where when you move into conflict mode, it feels like it's a very different game. And Legend of the Five Rings is using the same mechanic,
right?
You're still using the same dice roll mechanics, but suddenly you have stances. And suddenly everything is much more mechanical, and suddenly all these techniques come into play that weren't really coming into play before. So it can feel very jarring, and that's why I think I can be really off-putting about that.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
Casey says, clocks, I put that shit on everything. And then Beowulf says, that's what I'm trying to do with my Fate plus Genesis plus Forge in the Dark plus Pendragon game.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Now to be fair, at that scale of design, a scope, you're either going to do one of 2 things. That there when someone says something like that, and Beowulf, I love you, but like there's 1 of 2 ways about that. One is it's like creating a new dish. Now who's creating like a new recipe? Now who's creating the recipe? Is it Chef Bobby Flay, Iron Chef Bobby Flay, right? Is it I don't know, Malta Mario? Is it R.I.P. Anthony Bourdain? Or is it your 8-year-old daughter and she's just like, I like these and I like eggs and I like marshmallows and I like
It was like that thing you're talking about, the Marvel's screen rant.
Yeah, right. It's like both of those people are creating a recipe by taking things that they love and putting them in.
Yep.
Okay. But one of them is doing it with knowledge and skill and care and consideration and saying, I love this thing, but you know what? It doesn't go in this dish. Whereas your 8-year-old daughter is just pouring all that shit in a pot. So like that's where it's like, for me, you need to know where you are and what you're doing and who you're doing it. And, some people have the skill, the knowledge, the wherewithal to do that and integrate everything properly. And that's how you end up with something like Fabula Ultima.
Yeah. And that's why I don't usually do that. I mean, I'll just buy the game. Again, that's a big step for me to say, I'll just buy the game. I'll buy the game that I want to play now, I think. Whereas before, I think I would have tried to make 5e work.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm at the point now where I'm like, I'll just buy the game because I'm not gonna really homebrew that much.
I'll
tweak a little bit, but not like a lot of it.
I don't always understand why people do these things. I don't want to yuck anyone's yum. I'm a notorious homebrewer myself.
Right.
But
Northern Reaches is one gigantic Pathfinder 2 homebrew.
100%.
That you created.
But when I see things like this, the first thing I kind of go back to is why? Like, what are you trying to accomplish here? Not, and a lot of times the answer is going to be, well, I like these systems.
Right.
Like, well, that doesn't mean anything, right? If I want to get dinner, like, that doesn't mean I want to get like scrambled eggs, ice cream, a ham sandwich, and a lasagna because I like all those things at different points.
Right.
You know, possibly even the same day. Right.
Well,
that's a common kids thing. Where like, do you like broccoli? Yeah. Do you like ice cream? Yeah. Do you like broccoli ice cream? No.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Well, but it's also, I think, the fact of the reality is when you become exposed, if you only know Pathfinder or you only know 5th edition, then that's all you know. Then you get exposed, and you get exposed to all these other different games.
So
and
then naturally try to shove all that into 5th edition or Pathfinder.
Right. And then one of two things happens. One of two things happens. Number one, you realize, well, I can't play all these games.
Right.
I don't have the time. But I'm still really in love with these mechanics. Or two, which I hear again and again and again, I don't have my group will only play 5th edition.
Yeah.
My group will only play Pathfinder. If I want to go play Lancer,
I also think that's weird, but I understand it.
And that is way more common than what we have.
Oh yeah,
the
reason I find it weird is, are your friends not adults? Can you not have a conversation?
No. Well,
like the idea that we would only do one thing ever and like you can't discuss it is absurd to me.
Well,
we could have a conversation about like, guys, what do you think about moving the channel to Florida? It doesn't mean we will.
Well, it's not just about
but
that.
we could talk about the pros and cons of that as adults.
And to be fair, I do think the conversations happen. And then the people go, yeah, dude, I'm not learning a new system. I bought 3 books for 5th edition. I'm invested for life.
Yes, especially to the casual gamer.
To the casual gamer,
yeah.
Especially, what's his name? Jesus Christ, Seth Skorkowski talks about this, where it's like the gamer, like he has a scat, which is really funny, where it's like he's like, okay, guys, blah 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 game, and everyone's like, okay, all right, I'm digging it, all right, and everyone's like, okay, and then it shows them like going out and reading the rules, things like that, and they come back and they're ready to make. He's like, guys, got a new game for you, and everyone's like, dude, what the fuck? Like,
you can't do that shit.
Hey, we got a tip or super chat from our boy Damian Williams. He says, I'm done with hacking games. I play the game that does what I want right now.
Yep. I kind of agree with that.
I kind of agree with that.
I like to tweak.
And again, I don't vilify anybody who wants to hack. I'm just simply saying, like, it's a hard process, and I respect the hell out of it.
Yeah.
And so, like,
Ayla, do you think there's a certain threshold? She's like, if you like 80% of the game and it works for you, but the other 20%, I imagine that's different for everybody. But I assume there's a percentage in there.
Yeah, there's a percentage.
I'm sure there's a percentage.
It's funny you mentioned that because
maybe 80-20, 90, 85-15.
Yeah, I would say like if my friends all were like, we love 5e, and I'm like, okay, but there's like a 10% part I don't like, and I really think I have a good idea. We can maybe work together as a group to figure that out, and I think that 10% could be hacked.
Yeah, I like those numbers because I was just thinking, like, when I go about this, right? Like, typically what I do is I call it my chassis, right? It's the core game, unmodified. That I want 80-90% of it to handle it, right? Because that's like the big thing we're going to do is what this game does out of the box, and I don't have to think about it, right? So that does force me to make a decision, though, because that's the majority of a game. So I got to know that this is the game that's going to be aligned to it, right? And then that last, I don't even want to go 20, that last 10% for me are just specific tweaks to our group. Like it's barely homebrewing, other than the literal sense.
Saying is like minor house ruling is not hacking.
That's right. Yeah. Right. So for example, for me,
right.
like if we were to play 4E, I would make minor tweaks like you don't get all of your healing surges back when you're sleeping in the wilderness. They come back slower, right? Because I like a little bit more attrition. That's such a minor thing in this game. Or same thing,
and you're
like
technically working within the same constructs.
Right.
Well, that's my point. That's why it's barely. I call it tweaks versus homebrewing because I'm like you can explain it in 2.5 seconds and it works for everything.
Yep.
You don't have to worry.
Everyone
about
gets
right?
it.
Like the thing that they're gonna do, we're like, oh, it's a trap. Well, you're gonna lose a healing surge on top of that, right?
Yeah, I feel like I think that's a good point too. Like if you can explain to your party really quickly, they'll be like, oh, we understand.
If it involves you having to send them a document, that's probably.
If you're
good.
like, we're gonna learn a new system.
Right.
Then I'm going to install into this, like with clocks, or maybe they never heard of clocks. Like, that's a little bit of a hack.
Like, I'll give you a good example. When we were playing Rise of the Rune Lords, we were using the optional house rule system of stamina, where you had stamina and hit points.
Oh, I love that one.
Right?
Yeah.
And in Rise of the Rune Lords, my little tweak was that traps did damage directly to your hit points.
Right. That's good. I like that.
Like they didn't go through
super simple, super easy, thematic, visually. You can be like, I see why that makes sense.
Everyone gets it. It's still part of the core rule. That's a good tweak.
And it made traps feel a little bit scarier, which was my intention.
Which is what you wanted to do.
Right. That was my express. Now it wasn't that. Oh, I really like that rule.
No, you had a specific thing that you wanted to do.
Right. I wanted to do now, but this is also the mistake of homebrewing or hacking or whatever. I also was like, well, look, I have a new group of TTRPGers, and I want them to be big damn heroes, action heroes. This is Pathfinder 2. I want everything to kick ass. Man, the hero point rule is rough because people earn it, and then they spend it, and then they miss. Yeah. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get rid of the roll, and I'm just going to make it that the hero point improves the creative distress by 1.
Unintended consequences.
Unintended consequence, Bob. Unintended consequence.
Is that unintended? I don't know what he thought was going to happen.
Well, I didn't think Bob was going to save up 4 or 5 of them every time, and so that whenever like the final boss would come in, he'd be like, "I had this horrible plan. I'm drunk as shit, but I crit and I crit and I crit and I crit."
I felt awesome.
Now,
does it matter, Derik, if everyone was having fun?
Yeah, does it matter if everyone's having fun?
Everyone's drunk.
Yeah, everyone's drunk. I mean, at that point, yes, we've won if everyone's just drunk. But yeah, so I think that that's where I kind of go, yeah, see, look, I mean, I had this idea and it didn't work out.
Yeah,
I did not intend for that to happen, and it created a problem. And like, it also depends on the type of players you have. Tim understood the lethality of that, and
instantaneously.
But he didn't abuse it because he was
gentleman's agreement.
He was like, we didn't even have to say anything though. Like he just knew, like I'm not.
He knew if he pushed that.
Right. He's like, I'm not going to cast slow on all your monsters and then downgrade them to a failure.
Yeah. Once he does that, then he's like taught to all the noobs that we can all break this. And he's like, oh, this is bad if I go this out of the control.
Samuel says, how do we differentiate between house rules, hacks, homebrews, tweaks, etc.? I mean,
we did a little bit right there.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of scale. I think it's a matter of intention. And I think it really comes down to, are you simply taking something that is existing in the existing game engine and you are modifying it? Like, for example, I didn't think Flurry of Blows in Pathfinder 2. I didn't like that the monk was like not as good at flurrying as he was. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to make the monk's attacks double agile.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Super easy.
Basically.
Yeah. Little tweak.
Or make it so that it does that. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Because that to me is a tweak. That to me is like a minor,
One thing I'll say
house rules more like your hero points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually split up homebrew from like hacks and whatnot. Going in this conversation, I thought homebrew we more meant like, I'm going to make my own campaign. I'm going to make my own adventures, my own world, right? I consider that very different than hacking.
I agree.
That's not like...
I don't use those. I don't think those are the right words. Homebrew to me isn't hacking.
Yeah, homebrew is like using the system more or less as is. Like, I'm going to create my own content.
Right.
But like homebrew could also be, I'm going to create a monster in Pathfinder 2.
Right.
I'm going to create a spell in Pathfinder 2.
I mean, a classic example of hacking is me going like, I love Legend of the Five Rings. Right. And not just the world, but I love the mechanics that the Final Fantasy Flight game has.
Right.
But there are some cons to it. And I love PBTA. How can I hack L5R into PBTA? Right? Like, how can I hack the rings as approaches into PBTA? Because you might say, because it doesn't work that way. PBTA moves are linked expressly to stats.
Right.
But L5R's awesomeness comes from the fact that you get to pick whatever stat. But that can change the outcome of the effect. But PBTA doesn't have DCs. So like, how do you figure that out? Right. Now, if you can figure out a cohesive way to integrate that, awesome. That to me is hacking. Right.
Yes, absolutely.
But the implication there is that's why we call it hacking.
Right. You're changing the programming.
You're
but invasively.
But invasively. Hostile.
Hostile. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not it's not permission based access.
Yeah, no.
That's just called a push, that's an update. Like you're
not making a pull request.
You are doing
a reasonable
something
change.
that it was not designed to do.
Correct.
Right? You are doing something
and potentially gets the designer's wishes.
I don't want to say illegal, but like you're doing something kind of, a klutz, a workaround, So I think that hacks can be prone to failure.
I don't disagree.
Yeah.
But they'd be fun for a time.
For a time. But I mean, I'll tell you this, Bob. I know we all love DTX. But we were playing Caves of Chaos. We beat Caves of Chaos. You were like level 2, maybe 3.
On Caves of Chaos?
We were like 4 or 5.
No, we were 5.
You were definitely only George and Aaron were that high level.
No, I was one level below them, but we were
so
as
Kaz
a party
was like level 2.
Yeah, Kaz like barely level.
All right, fine. So you were level 4. Maybe.
Yeah, let's say I'm level 4.
All right. Do that for 16 more levels. I don't think
if you would have fixed the spell thing after you unintentionally made it terrible, I think it would have been okay.
I mean, there were still some other problems.
Sure, I'm sure, but then you just hack those, like and fix them. There's always a hack.
That's the real problem with the
hack.
Yeah, the hack.
When you hack, it leads to another hack.
The hack leads to a hack.
Just hack it.
Right, but
It's like the developer song, 99 bugs on the wall, take one down, 102 bugs on the wall.
Right. So you're just chasing.
That's pretty good.
You're just chasing nonsense. You're just chasing your tail at that point. So I think that's what it's. I think, and again, I'm not trying to say like I'm down on it or anything like that. Like I think we
hack a lot of things.
Yeah, we hack a lot of things, but I just think that it's it is a form of design, but I think that coming up with a genuinely unique and creative approach to gaming is, I think, more. It's going to interest me more than imagine that game, but with this. And it's like, like for me, like Root is a more interesting game than Dungeon World, because Dungeon World is trying to hack PBTA into D&D.
But which would you say is more fun?
Depends. It depends.
Because interesting don't mean shit around these parts.
Because I do not like the hit point mechanic of Dungeon World.
I do not like the hit point mechanic of Dungeon World.
So if we hack,
we need to hack Dungeon World, Root, and Avatar.
Dungeon World, Root, Avatar, Torchbearer, and Thirsty Sword Lesbians.
Well, sure, why not?
And then for Beowulf's sake, we'll throw in Fate, Genesis.
Yeah. Oh, what's new hotness? Because we want to stay topical, right? Pendragon.
No, that's new hotness for us.
Yeah. So we'll throw that in too.
I would say Dragonbane might be starting to pick up some
There you go. So, and you know what? We'll throw in.
We need to build a module hack framework.
And we'll throw in, and also I saw half
Cleveland 1986 Demon thing is the new hotness,
and the whole thing will be 5e compatible. Right?
Yeah.
And I saw half a video on MCDM, new system, so I'm going to put that in there.
Perfect, done.
Yes, Beowulf says it's duct tape and hacks all the way down. And see, by the way, Beowulf, that is, I think, an interesting point. And Bob, I'm going to throw you under the bus here a little bit. There's a problem. Now, I ascribe to the Nick Offerman, Ron Swanson line of thought. Don't half-ass two things.
Whole-ass one thing.
Whole-ass one thing. Others don't.
Yeah.
You half-ass one thing.
To me, if you fix something with duct tape, you didn't fix it.
So when I was saying that resin was like going into my vents.
Yes.
Guess how I closed it?
You put duct tape over.
Yeah. I duct taped that vent shut. My wife was like, "I don't think that's the way we're supposed to do it." I'm like, "Nope, I'm testing it out."
Nope, and you know what? And that is the perfect example of just complip willful ignorance.
Next tip,
you guys need to watch the Red Green. If you guys watch the Red Green
Bob's
show,
lung cancer.
duct tape is good.
It's like, do you know if that's effective at blocking particulates? Did you know anything about the permeability of duct tape? It's a cloth-based tape, so I got to imagine it's somewhat permeable. You know nothing. You just
look. The duct tape is off now. I took it off when I got home. It was a temporary solution.
All right, this is fantastic.
But Booth's home, so we can end the stream.
Okay, well, we will. All right. So, that was what we were waiting permission. We were waiting permission from Boothbey to end the stream, so we're going to go ahead and end it. Now, as a reminder, we will not be fixing this light because we didn't meet our tip goal. But I will.
Is that punishing them or us?
I think it's you.
I mean, you're the one who doesn't.
You're in the darkness.
I mean, I don't like the dark, but you can still see me on the camera.
Yeah, you're still good. I mean, yeah. But we're not going to be here Thursday. I'm going to be back in.
Someone's like, I just started watching.
It's George.
It's George.
Damn it, George always gets me. I never know it's George.
You got to know. You got to know his 5 user
not
accounts.
A drummer.
Yeah, not a drummer. But anyways, we're not going to be here Thursday. I'm going to be out of town. I'm going to take a little trip over to Vegas. You know that.
Yeah.
And then we're going to be into the holidays. And normally we've had like big lead ups to big holiday games and stuff like that, and people tip goals. But this year, people are like, we don't really care about you guys, and we don't really want to watch you do any of that nonsense. So
we don't care about you, and we're going to take the holidays off.
Right. So over the next couple of weeks, you're going to see some, probably some streams that get canceled just because it's going to be the holidays. Of course, I am forever alone. And so there's entirely a possibility that maybe we'll get some more of those European streams in the middle of the day.
Oh, those people like those. Yeah.
People really do like those. But I want to encourage you to spend time with your loved ones this holiday season if you celebrate, and take some time off of work if you have the ability to. It's always a nice time for that. But for us, Night's the Last Call is kind of a winding up of the Northern Reaches season and a bunch of other stuff. It's going to be tax time for the channel soon, and
hell, we're winding up our
made
Discord
money.
Games. We're winding up our private games.
Right.
Yeah, we ended AV.
Yeah. I mean, we're just basically all done. We're just getting out of the RPG business.
Right. Entirely.
So, gonna go into woodworking and camping.
Woodworking is coming.
Woodworking and camping. Oh yeah, woodworking is coming. We've got Bob's
garage is cleaned up.
We've got Bob's cup holders all set to go. Actually, we spent a good chunk of time talking about design about the table and some of the features. I will make it. I think we're gonna, we might do a stream. The first stream, Bob, might just be design and like me talking /the audience through like why I'm designing the table with the measurements that I'm using, and
let's do it.
Because I've built a couple of these things by now.
It will be the most successful stream this show has ever done.
That's right. YouTube will probably love it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're talking about something that YouTube actually likes, woodworking.
I mean, isn't the jazz stream with us painting like super?
No, it just
that was our patrons only, but they loved it.
Oh, was that only patrons?
That was the best.
Yeah. I thought there was something we did that was slightly like construction oriented.
We got good tips on that one.
Oh, on the painting one?
Yeah.
We did some shorts.
Oh, okay, that was it. The shorts.
We did some shorts from the studio when Bob and I were working on
table,
stuff,
right?
For the table, and those were like the
best.
Crushed it. That was like the best performing thing we've ever done. Yeah. And then people were like,
role playing games.
Delete.
I subscribed and now I'm
Report.
unsubscribing.
That's true, Casey. We're getting close to tax time. We don't want to stream and make enough tips that you have to pay taxes this year. Unfortunately, we ran out of lights to buy this year, so. Unfortunately, the last couple months of the year, we were profitable. So
well, we got to buy one.
We do got to buy one, but we only made it like part of the way there. But that's all right. Yeah. That's okay. Because we appreciate all of you, and we appreciate the incredible community that you've allowed us to build around you and with you. So we really, really appreciate that. And so many of you I know are already members of our Patreon, or you're supporters of us here on the channel. To either in terms of tipping or super chatting or being a member. So all that is super, super appreciated because it lets us, have fun and do cool stuff and, put a little bit more time and attention and effort in this than we might otherwise be able to do. Again, there are people out here who do this full time. That's wild. That is just.
I mean, I was slammed all day at work.
Full time, 30 minutes a week.
I mean, I don't think I could literally.
Could you imagine?
I don't think I
30
could.
minutes.
I don't think I could literally stream. Let's just say this was like my
intros are 20.
let's say that like I streamed this was my full-time job and it paid for the bills. Like, would I stream every day? I don't think I could, but like, I would be at least on 3 or 4 times a week. You know what I mean?
Ayla's got a good thumbnail title for your woodworking stream.
What's that?
5e compatible woodworking. You won't believe this one simple trick.
Boom. Boom.
It's
platinum trophy overnight.
What's disgusting is, bam, we get the silver play button on that one. It's like, wow, you guys gained 90,000 subs last
in
night.
one night. It's amazing.
Then the next night they all go away.
Doesn't matter. Send me the button, YouTube. That's true. We just got Doug, there's been a lot of jokes about like us like doing like being like talking about games that we love that are the 5th edition, like being, but then we're not talking about 5th edition D&D. Be like 5th edition is so amazing, and we'll tell you why.
There's
and
no flavor in 5th edition.
Legend of the Five Renaissance 5th edition. There's a couple games that are on their 5th edition, so it's kind of funny that we could totally do that. Yeah. But anyways, thank you, Bob. Thank you, Smith. Thanks to all of you, and we'll see you next time on Nights of Last Call. Bye, everybody.
Peace.
Take care.